Chapter 199. The Brute Force Glyph Array, the Haste Glyph Array, and the Vajra Glyph Array. These three Grade 2 glyph arrays had the effect of increasing strength, increasing movement speed, and increasing defense. They were the most basic and simplest Grade 2 glyph arrays. They were the glyph arrays that many talisman array masters with average talent would often use when participating in the Grade 2 Glyph Array Master exam. No one had expected that Bayou would actually choose these three Grade 2 glyph arrays to participate in the exam. Facing the staff member's astonished expression, Bayou asked indifferently, "Did I pass?" The staff member returned to his senses when he heard this, and he immediately recovered his smiling attitude of service as he said to Bayou, "Student Bayou, according to the rules, you've already passed the test and are already a Grade 2 Talisman Formation Master. Thank you." After Bayou thanked the staff, she turned around and walked toward Qin Chuan. When Qin Chuan saw Bayou walking in front of him without saying a word, he couldn't help but smile and say, "Congratulations, I'll be treating you to dinner tonight. Master Bai, please do me the honor of joining us." "Yes." Bayou nodded lightly, and then she walked to the side and sat down on the ground. She was still expressionless, but everyone could sense that she was in a very good mood. However, at this time, no one was curious as to why Bayou would use these three ordinary and basic rank 2 formations to participate in the exam. In everyone's opinion, the reason Bayou was able to reach the 13th layer of Qi condensation was because she spent most of her time on cultivation and didn't study formations, especially hard. Therefore, she had to use these three ordinary and basic rank 2 formations to participate in the exam. After all, no matter how outstanding a person was, it was impossible to be perfect. As for Long Xiao, as the third person to take the test, the three talisman arrays she used to take the test were all of the fire attribute, and they were all battle arrays. Mystic Fire Glyph Array, Flame Dragon Glyph Array, Scarlet Flame Glyph Array. As she looked at Long Xiao, who'd skillfully inscribed three Grade 2 fire element combat formations, even Ningya couldn't help but sigh with emotion. As expected of the genius of the number 1 Talisman Formation Master Clan in the Star Dragon Federation, her natural talent is outstanding, and her starting point is higher than others. Her future accomplishments will surely be limitless. I don't think this is Long Xiao's limit. Her talent Rune is a special black flame attribute. As far as I know, the Long family's Divine Flame Technique system has a rune array that uses black flames. Its power is even stronger than ordinary fire attribute rune arrays. With Long Xiao's position in the Long family, he should have learned this kind of black flame talisman array. Su Yuluo glanced at Ningya and said, "Is the black flame of the Long family more powerful, or is your ice sea more powerful?" Ningya glanced indifferently at Su Yuluo. "Childish." Su Yuluo rolled her eyes speechlessly. She was just asking out of curiosity. How did it become childish? Long Xiao, who appeared as the finale, did not disappoint and caused everyone to gasp in amazement. Today's assessment had come to an end. For the remaining time, everyone could move freely in the Elf City. They just had to use the teleportation array to return to school at night. At this moment, Ningya called out Qin Chuan. In the rear garden of the Talisman Formation Master Association, Ningya looked at Qin Chuan, who stood before her, and she said with slight satisfaction, "Not bad, you're already at the perfection stage of the Qi refinement realm. I presume it won't be long before you can start preparing to advance into the Foundation Establishment realm." Qin Chuan pursed his lips and said to Ningya, "I'm not in a hurry to advance to the Foundation Establishment realm. I want to spend more time studying talisman formations." Now, Qin Chuan's aura was strong and seemed to be at the perfection stage of the Qi refinement realm. However, Qin Chuan knew very well that he had only just entered the 13th level of the Qi refinement realm. The reason why his aura was so strong was because the dragon's blood refinement and the blood essence secret medicine had greatly strengthened his physique. That was why his aura had become stronger than ordinary people. He still had a long way to go before he could truly reach the perfection stage of the Qi refinement realm. However, because both the dragon's blood refinement and the blood essence secret medicine were related to the demon king of the demon race, Qinchuan could not explain too clearly to Ningya and could only use other excuses to cover it up. Ningya didn't suspect anything. She smiled and said, "That's your own business. You should think it over carefully. Also, are you planning to hang out with that unreliable Li Feng this winter break?" Qinchuan nodded and grinned. "Brother Feng and I are carrying out a bold innovation. Once it succeeds, it will definitely cause a sensation in the world. Don't joke around. Just the two of you?" Ningya did not believe Qinchuan's words at all. She did not believe that Li Feng could come up with any good inventions. "I guarantee that when the time comes, you will definitely be surprised." Qinchuan did not explain much. Words were not proof. When he and Li Feng's experiment succeeded, Ningya would naturally be convinced. In the evening, Qinchuan treated Lu Zi and Bai Yu to dinner as promised. He also called Su Enjing and Hu Dingshan to celebrate Su Enjing becoming an official student. Long Xiao also came uninvited. In Long Zhao's words, there were a total of 3 people participating in the second-rank Talisman Formation Master Examination today. If Qinchuan did not treat her to dinner, she would lose face. As for Chen Chongqing, he had other matters to attend to and did not come to join in the fun. In the dining hall, Qinchuan, whose hair had already grown long, looked at everyone sitting before him and chuckled. "Now that I think about it, we have been classmates for almost half a year. Time really flies." Half a year ago, Qinchuan was only a little fellow at the first level of the Qi refinement stage. During this half a year, he had experienced numerous dangers in the Cursed Land, experienced the changes in the Dragon Spirit Lake, experienced the Beast Tide after that, and went from being the center of attention of everyone to a nobody that silently studied talisman formations in the Talisman Formation Master Association. All of these experiences were unforgettable and precious to Qinchuan. The people before him were his friends that had accompanied him through these unforgettable years. Yes, half a year has passed in a flash. Lu Zi was also very emotional. Half a year ago, she did not have any expectations for her future university life, but Qinchuan's appearance changed everything. She really liked the feeling she had now. She could cultivate with friends that she could get along with and study talisman formations. Every day was very exciting and fulfilling. "Qinchuan, you should be participating in the ranking competition in half a year, right?" Long Xiao looked at Qinchuan with shining eyes and said, "According to the rules of the ranking competition, the 4 most outstanding people from each year's freshmen can participate in the ranking competition. I think it should be the 4 of us." In Long Zhao's eyes, among the freshmen of the same year, other than herself and Qinchuan, only Bai Yu and Lu Zi had the strength to become the other 2 of the 4. "I should be participating in the ranking competition." Qinchuan suddenly thought of Zhou Lin, who was far away in the Starry Sky Academy. Thinking about it, Zhou Lin would definitely participate in the ranking competition. Chapter 200. In the pocket dimension, Li Feng looked at Qinchuan seriously and asked, "Qinchuan, are you ready?" Qinchuan nodded solemnly and said to Li Feng, "Brother Feng, I'm ready. We can start anytime." Li Feng took a deep look at Qinchuan and said, "Whether our research will succeed or not depends on today." Ever since the collective assessment, the Black Moon Combat Academy had entered the winter break period. Everyone else went home to enjoy the rare holiday, but Qinchuan chose to stay in the City of Elves to continue his research on glyph. He wanted to turn the combination of the 5 elements rotation glyphs into reality as soon as possible. After all, he did not have any relatives in the state capital of Qing, and Wang Bo had joined the army. He would be alone if he returned to the state capital of Qing, so he might as well stay in the City of Elves. As for Zhou Lin, Qinchuan did not plan to meet her before he advanced to the Foundation establishment stage. Furthermore, he felt that the best time to meet her would be during the 6 Great Colleges qualifier competition. Now that half a month had passed, the 5 Level 2 battle formations of the 5 elements rotation glyphs had been simplified into Level 1 battle formations. Now it was finally time to experiment with the result. Qin Chuan took a deep breath and used his mental strength to engrave the first wood element battle formation, the Brambles glyph. After Qin Chuan had successfully engraved the Level 1 Brambles glyphs, a formation diagram that emitted a green light appeared in front of him. Thorns with sharp thorns grew from it and emitted a dangerous aura. After the Brambles glyphs were successfully engraved, according to the principle of the 5 elements, the next formation to be engraved was the Scarlet Flame glyph. Qin Chuan focused on maintaining the stability of the Brambles glyphs while engraving the Scarlet Flame glyph. After a while, the fiery red formation diagram of the Scarlet Flame glyphs appeared beside Qin Chuan and formed a subtle connection with the Brambles glyph. Due to the fact that wood breathes fire, the Bramble glyph was inevitably weakened to a certain extent after the Scarlet Flame glyph was formed. Therefore, the third battle formation that Qin Chuan was about to inscribe was the Jade Wave glyph. Just as Qin Chuan was about to inscribe the Blue Wave charm array, the Bramble charm array suddenly collapsed and dissipated in the air. The Red Flame charm array also began to show signs of disorder. Seeing this, Qin Chuan immediately took the initiative to disperse the Red Flame charm array. Too slow. Li Feng frowned slightly. Qin Chuan's idea was correct, but his speed was a little slow. I think we're going in the wrong direction. Li Feng pondered for a moment and said to Qin Chuan, "You shouldn't use your mental strength to inscribe the 5 elements charm array. You should use a glyph brush." Qin Chuan's talent rune was of the thunder attribute. Using mental strength to inscribe a thunder attribute glyph array was naturally like the help of God. However, the 5 elements charm array was not Qin Chuan's specialty after all. If Qin Chuan directly used his mental strength to inscribe the glyph array, the attribute would be inconsistent, which undoubtedly increased the difficulty. Even if it was a level 1 charm array, there would still be some mistake. Therefore, Li Feng felt that it was best for Qin Chuan to use a glyph brush to inscribe the glyph array. This way, not only would it be faster, it would also save time. At the same time, more mental strength could be used to maintain the stability of the glyph array, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. After hearing Li Feng's suggestion, Qin Chuan thought about it and felt that Li Feng's words made sense. Therefore, he said to Li Feng, "Then I'll go get a glyph brush." "No need." Li Feng suddenly took out an exquisite mechanical box from his sleeve and handed it to Qin Chuan. He said with a smile, "It will be the new year in 2 days. Originally, I wanted to give this to you as a New Year's Eve gift. Now, it seems that I have to give it to you in advance." Qin Chuan took the mechanical box in his hand with some surprise. He opened the mechanical box and looked at the glyph brush carved from starwood. He could not help but show a touch of shame on his face. He said to Li Feng, "Brother Feng, I'm sorry. I didn't even think of preparing a New Year's gift for you. Haha, as long as you can successfully turn this 5 elements rotation charm array from a guess to a reality before the new year, it will be the best New Year's gift for me." Li Feng laughed. He did not care about the gift. Instead, he urged Qin Chuan to quickly start a new round of experiments. Qin Chuan did not beat around the bush. He immediately began to inscribe the charm array with the glyph brush. Just as Li Feng expected, when Qin Chuan used the glyph brush to inscribe the charm array, he could use more of his mental strength to maintain the stability of the battle array. The speed of inscribing the battle array was much faster. With Qin Chuan's current mental strength, he could barely maintain the stability of the 5 first-level battle arrays. Therefore, Qin Chuan quickly finished inscribing the 5 first-level battle arrays of different attribute. They formed a circle in front of him. Looking at the 5 first-level battle arrays in front of him, Qin Chuan could not help but feel a little excited. He had already succeeded in half. The remaining half was to completely connect the 5 first-level battle arrays to each other and form a combination of charm arrays. If he wanted to connect the 5 first-level battle arrays of different attributes, he could not do it one by one. He had to connect the 5 first-level battle arrays in the shortest time possible. Only then could he ensure the stability of the combination of charm arrays. Otherwise, once there was a clear distinction between the strong and the weak, it was very likely that the battle array would suddenly collapse again like just now. Let's begin. Qin Chuan took a deep breath. He held the glyph brush in his hand tightly and waved it abruptly. He began to connect the Jade Wave Charm Array and the Bramble Charm Array. The water and wood attributes of the battle arrays were gentler, so the success rate of connecting them was higher. After the Jade Wave Charm Array and the Bramble Charm Array were connected, Qin Chuan immediately went to connect the Scarlet Flame Charm Array. However, at this moment, the Jade Wave Charm Array suddenly collapsed. Boom! A violent boom sounded in the small world. Qin Chuan was severely injured and flew out immediately. Li Feng, who was already prepared, hurriedly flew to Qin Chuan and hugged Qin Chuan. Then, he quickly passed a medicine to Qin Chuan's mouth. Gulp, gulp. Qin Chuan swallowed the entire healing medicine. Only then did he feel a little more comfortable. He let out a long sigh of relief and shook his head. Failed again. It's fine as long as you're fine. Li Feng looked at the traces of blood at the corner of Qin Chuan's mouth and was very concerned about Qin Chuan's physical condition. I'm fine. I just need to rest for a while. Qin Chuan sat up from the ground and looked at the crater that was blasted out. He said to Li Feng, Brother Feng, if we can't connect the 5 battle arrays in an instant, we definitely won't succeed. Connecting the 5 first-level battle arrays in an instant requires too much mental strength. Even I can't do it. Li Feng sighed and said, Perhaps only people at senior sister's level can do it. Perhaps we should change our way of thinking. Qin Chuan looked deeply at Li Feng and said, We need a middleman. A middleman who can connect the 5 battle arrays in an instant. Li Feng couldn't help but be stunned. Middleman. Chapter 201. After a day of rest, Qin Chuan and Li Feng once again came to the pocket world and started a new experiment. Qin Chuan, are you sure you want to do this? Looking at Qin Chuan, who had once again successfully inscribed the 5 first-rank combat formations, Li Feng was a little nervous, because what Qin Chuan was about to do was something they had never thought of before and had never deduced before. It was full of uncertainties. If they were slightly careless, it would not be as simple as just getting injured. In the face of Li Feng's nervousness and worry, Qin Chuan nodded solemnly and said, I'm sure, because this is the only way I can think of to break out of this situation. If we fail this time, we might not have the chance to succeed in the future. They had researched for so long and had finally reached this point with great difficulty. It was absolutely impossible for him to give up so easily. Hearing Qin Chuan's words, Li Feng could not help but grit his teeth fiercely and said to Qin Chuan, Then give it your all. Even if I have to risk my life, I will definitely protect you. Haha, then I'm going to start. Qin Chuan laughed loudly and actually started to inscribe the 6th talisman formation. This time, Qin Chuan did not use a talisman pen, but directly used his spiritual energy to inscribe the Thunder Control Talisman formation. The Thunder Control Talisman formation was the talisman formation that Qin Chuan had first learned, so it was naturally easy to inscribe it. In just a breath's time, the diagram of the Thunder Control Talisman formation slowly appeared at the center of the 5 combat formations, emitting a heart-palpitating aura of thunder. Li Feng looked at Qin Chuan nervously. After seeing Qin Chuan successfully inscribing the Thunder Control Talisman formation, the worry on his face could not help but become even more intense. Because what Qin Chuan was about to do next was the most dangerous thing. Phew! Qin Chuan lightly exhaled, and his expression gradually became exceptionally solemn. At this time, He had already used all his spiritual energy to maintain the stability of the talisman formation and had almost reached his limit. However, if he wanted to proceed to the next step, which was also the most crucial step, he had to overdraw his spiritual energy. Let's fight. Qin Chuan clenched his teeth and clenched a middle-grade thunder spiritual stone in his hand. He drew out the thunderbolt power contained in the middle-grade thunder spiritual stone and injected it into the thunder control charm array. Then, he divided the thunderbolt power into 5 and rushed toward the other 5 level 1 battle formations. Sizzle! The violent power of thunder surged violently in the air, turning into lines that connected the 5 first-class array glyph. In the blink of an eye, the 5 first-class array glyphs were connected together. 1. Accompanied by a buzzing sound, the 5 first-class battle arrays actually revolved slowly around the Thunder Manipulation Talisman array in the center, shining brilliantly. At this moment, even if Qin Chuan no longer used his spiritual energy to maintain the stability of the formation diagram, the formation diagram was still extremely stable and would not collapse. This indicated that Qin Chuan had succeeded. He had really turned Li Feng's conjecture into reality and successfully inscribed the combination of the 5 elements rotation charm array. Li Feng looked at the huge array diagram in front of Qin Chuan in shock. He was stunned for a long time before he suddenly burst out laughing. Success! We did it! Ha ha ha! The combination of the 5 elements rotation charm array is really a success! When he saw Li Feng's excited and agitated appearance, a smile involuntarily appeared on Qin Chuan's tired face. Although he had made a gamble, he had made the right bet. Using the lightning attribute as a medium to connect with the 5 elements battle formation, the method of activating the 5 elements coexisting force was indeed successful. On the grassland, Qin Chuan and Li Feng sat on the ground, each holding a jug of wine and a roasted lamb leg in their hands. They ate the meat and drank the wine in large mouthfuls, feeling extremely refreshed. Although the combination of the 5 elements rotation charm array is a success, it seems to have become a charm array combination that only I can inscribe. Qin Chuan grinned and said to Li Feng, "This is somewhat inconsistent with Brother Feng's original intention. No way, as long as I can successfully inscribe the combination of the 5 elements rotation charm array, it doesn't matter who uses it." Li Feng laughed and drank the wine in large mouthfuls. He said to Qin Chuan, "Brother, with your current level, inscribing the combination of the 5 elements rotation charm array is still a bit too difficult. However, when you advance to the foundation establishment stage, it should be much easier." Advancing to the foundation establishment stage is also my next goal. Qin Chuan looked up at the gray sky and said to Li Feng with a smile, "Next, I don't plan to continue studying charm arrays. I want to concentrate on cultivation and strive to advance to the foundation establishment stage before school starts." "You're leaving?" Li Feng glanced at Qin Chuan and smacked his lips. He seemed to be somewhat reluctant to part with him. "I won't go far. I'll just stay in the Azure Ancient City. Brother, if you have any problems, you can look for me at any time." Qin Chuan laughed and said to Li Feng, "All good things must come to an end. Brother Feng, I really have to thank you for these days. I learned a lot from you." "You don't have to thank me. I should be the one thanking you." Li Feng smiled. "It was you who made my guess come true and fulfilled my wish. Since you're leaving, as your brother, I don't want to stay in this guild anymore. I want to resign and go sightseeing." Hearing Li Feng say that he wanted to go sightseeing, Qin Chuan couldn't help but think of Lion Lord. Since the day they parted, he hadn't heard any news about Lion Lord. He also didn't know where his cheap cousin was now. "Brother Feng, if you really want to go sightseeing, you might meet some interesting people." Qin Chuan was suddenly curious. If Li Feng met Lion Lord, what would happen? "There are many interesting people in this world. Of course, I want to meet some of them. But you, brat, I heard that many girls like you. Who are you going to pick?" Li Feng suddenly leaned over to Qin Chuan, his face full of gossip. Qin Chuan looked at Li Feng speechlessly and said, "Brother Feng, why are you suddenly so gossipy?" "Nonsense, you're my brother. You're such an outstanding genius. Of course, you have to be more careful when choosing a girlfriend. Tell me who you like. I'll help you check if she's suitable for you before I leave." Li Feng smiled. "Although our Star Dragon Federation advocates monogamy, if you have the ability, no one can stop you no matter how many women you find. As far as I know, many Foundation establishment stage cultivators have 3 wives and 4 concubines." "Old man," Qin Chuan rolled his eyes at Li Feng, "I'm now wholeheartedly cultivating. I don't think about other things." No matter who asked about his feelings, Qin Chuan always had this attitude. "That's a pity. From now on, there's one more cultivation madman in this world and one less scumbag." Li Feng sighed and said to Qin Chuan, "With your qualifications, it's a pity that you're not a scumbag." Qin Chuan rolled his eyes and was too lazy to respond to Li Feng. Only a ghost would want to be a scumbag. Chapter 202. After spending New Year's Eve with Li Feng, Qin Chuan and Li Feng bid each other farewell on the morning of the first day of the new year. One went on a sightseeing tour, while the other returned to Azure City to concentrate on his cultivation. Even though it was the new year, the Black Moon Combat Academy's office in the City of Elves still had a local administrator on duty. When he saw Qin Chuan arrive, the administrator was surprised, but he didn't ask any questions. He simply wished him a happy new year. Qin Chuan returned to the Black Moon Combat Academy through the transfer array. It had been a long time since he'd last seen anyone. As he looked at the empty plaza, he couldn't help but feel a little lonely. Qin Chuan. At this moment, someone suddenly walked in from outside the teleportation square. When she saw Qin Chuan appear in the teleportation square, she seemed a little surprised. "So it's Professor Lan." When he saw him, Qin Chuan smiled and greeted him. Lan Weiwei looked at Qin Chuan with surprise in her eyes. "I heard you didn't go home for the new year," she said softly. "You've been at the Talisman Masters Guild in the City of Elves. I didn't think you'd come back today." "It's the first day of the new year, after all. I should come back to pay my respects." Qin Chuan chuckled. "I wish you a happy new year, Professor Lan." "Thank you, and I wish you a happy new year as well." Lan Weiwei politely responded to Qin Chuan. Her feelings towards Qin Chuan were very complicated. The Lan family had wanted to recruit Qin Chuan and have Qin Chuan marry into the Lan family. She'd been chosen by the Lan family to marry Qin Chuan. When she'd first heard of Qin Chuan, Lan Weiwei had looked down on Qin Chuan. No matter how outstanding Qin Chuan's talent was, he was still just a kid at the qi refining stage. She, on the other hand, was already a mid-foundation establishment cultivator. However, what happened to Qin Chuan made Lan Weiwei completely change her view of Qin Chuan. Whether it was Qin Chuan's heroic performance in the Beast Tide or his calmness when facing the Archfiend Lion Duke, Lan Weiwei admired Qin Chuan from the bottom of her heart. However, just when Lan Weiwei felt that it wasn't unacceptable to be with Qin Chuan, the Lan family suddenly gave up on recruiting Qin Chuan. When she heard the decision of the Lan family's higher-ups, Lan Weiwei didn't show any special emotions, but she knew in her heart that she was a little lost. It was undeniable that Qin Chuan was a very outstanding man. She liked Qin Chuan a little. However, from Qin Chuan's attitude towards her, she could tell that in Qin Chuan's eyes, she was just a teacher. "I won't take up any more of your time, goodbye." Lan Weiwei looked at Qin Chuan with a subtle gaze and took the initiative to say goodbye to Qin Chuan. Since they weren't fated to be together, it was better to let it go. "Goodbye." Qin Chuan said goodbye to Lan Weiwei, then stepped out of the teleportation square and went straight to Ning Ye's apartment. Knock knock knock. Qin Chuan knocked on the door of Ning Ye's apartment. After waiting for a while, someone came to open the door. To Qin Chuan's surprise, it was Bai Yu who came to open the door. Seeing Bai Yu appear, Qin Chuan was very surprised and asked, "Why are you here?" Bai Yu slightly pursed her lips and responded, "I'm here to pay a New Year's visit." Qin Chuan walked in, somewhat puzzled, and asked again, "You've been? Wait a minute, your aura." Qin Chuan looked at Bai Yu in shock, somewhat in disbelief. The aura on Bai Yu's body was so strong, it seemed that she had already advanced to the foundation establishment stage. The day before yesterday, Bai Yu successfully advanced to the foundation establishment stage. Now, she still can't control her aura very well. "Boy, you've been left behind." Ningya, wearing a red cheongsam, slowly walked over. She looked at Qin Chuan calmly and snorted, "Boy, you still have a conscience. You know to come and pay a New Year's visit to me, your teacher." "Teacher, Happy New Year." After Qin Chuan greeted Ningya, he looked at Bai Yu again with surprise. He thought that he would be the first person to advance to the foundation establishment stage among the new students, but he didn't expect Bai Yu to be one step faster than him. Moreover, after the new year, he would be 19 years old, and Bai Yu would only be 17 years old. "When are you going to advance to the foundation establishment stage?" Ningya looked at Qin Chuan with a slightly surprised expression and said, "I sense that your aura has obviously surpassed the level of the Qi perfection stage. You're stronger than the last time we met. How did you do it?" Generally speaking, after the cultivation stage reached the perfection stage, unless you advanced to the next big realm, otherwise, no matter how much you cultivated, there would be no further improvement. However, Qin Chuan could improve his cultivation stage again after reaching the perfection stage of the Qi perfection stage without advancing to the foundation establishment stage. This was a bit strange. "I don't know. I just feel that my cultivation stage hasn't reached the perfect level of perfection, so I tried to continue cultivating. Maybe it has something to do with my cultivation method." Qin Chuan scratched his head and pushed all the reasons to the thunder-devouring scripture that he cultivated. "That's the only possibility." Ningya nodded gently and didn't ask Qin Chuan to show her his cultivation method. Although she had a very good relationship with Qin Chuan now, there were some taboos that she wouldn't touch easily. "Well, you and Bai Yu now go to Su Yuluo's place and greet her on behalf of me." Ningya glanced at Bai Yu and then at Qin Chuan. She couldn't help but think of what Su Yuluo had said to her before. Perhaps Bai Yu was more suitable for Qin Chuan than Lu Zi. Under Ningya's arrangement, Qin Chuan and Bai Yu went out together and walked towards Su Yuluo's apartment. On the way, Qin Chuan looked at the silent Bai Yu and asked with a smile, "When are you going to hold the foundation establishment banquet?" Bai Yu shook her head gently and said, "I don't plan to. Advancing to the foundation establishment stage is a big deal. The foundation establishment banquet must be held." Qin Chuan shook his head and said, "It can't be ignored." "Then what do you think I should do?" Bai Yu suddenly threw the question to Qin Chuan. Qin Chuan pondered for a moment and suddenly said to Bai Yu with a smile, "Do you want it to be lively or quiet?" Without waiting for Bai Yu to answer, Qin Chuan continued, "If you want it to be lively, then hold it after school starts. Call all your classmates to attend your foundation establishment banquet. If you want it to be quiet, then let's go to the school's cafeteria. I'll cook a few dishes that I'm good at." Qin Chuan had lived alone since he was a child. Although his cooking skills weren't that exquisite, it was still delicious. Bai Yu's eyes flickered slightly and she asked, "If it's quiet, will it be just the two of us? You can also call my teacher and your teacher." Qin Chuan thought for a moment. 4 people wasn't a lot and it was quite quiet. "No need to trouble, teacher, just the 2 of us." Bai Yu shook her head gently. "This is good." Chapter 203. At night, in the spacious school cafeteria, only a small area was lit. Bai Yu sat at the table, and through the bright window not far away, she could clearly see Qin Chuan cooking inside. Seeing Qin Chuan skillfully cutting and frying vegetables, Bai Yu's white face couldn't help but reveal a faint smile. It's done. Qinchuan's happy shout came from the kitchen. Not long after, Qinchuan came out with 2 dishes and a soup. Hey, this is the chili meat stir-fried with demonic beast meat. This is the demonic beast bone seafood soup made from the bones of demonic beasts in the sea. This is the longevity egg stir-fried with longevity grass and demonic beast egg. This is the main dish of the Foundation establishment banquet. It means immortality, hee. Qinchuan smiled and placed a bowl of crystal-clear rice in front of Bai Yu. Okay, let's eat. Bai Yu looked at the rice in front of her, then looked at Qinchuan and asked, Why aren't you eating? You are today's main character. Of course you should eat first. Qinchuan smiled and picked up a longevity egg for Bai Yu. Try it. This is my first time stir-frying a longevity egg. Bai Yu obediently ate a mouthful of the longevity egg, and then a mouthful of rice. She gently chewed and slowly swallowed, saying, Delicious. Qinchuan couldn't help but laugh as he gazed at Bai Yu's gentle appearance while eating, and he said, You're so swift and decisive in battle, and you slaughter everyone in your way. Why are you so gentle and cute when eating? Then how should I eat? Bai Yu looked at Qinchuan with some confusion. She was usually like this when she was eating, but it seemed that Qinchuan felt that something was wrong. No, just eat according to your method. I was just saying. Qinchuan chuckled. He picked up a spoon and scooped a bowl of soup for Bai Yu. Hurry up and eat. Bai Yu was a person of few words. During the meal, it was Qinchuan who was talking most of the time. Bai Yu only responded occasionally. After the meal, it was already 8 o'clock in the evening. From tomorrow onwards, I will work hard on my cultivation. Qinchuan stretched lazily and said to Bai Yu, As a person, you can't slack off. You have to work hard to not fall behind. Bai Yu looked at Qinchuan curiously and asked, Why do you desire power so much? Because of a sense of crisis. Qinchuan chuckled. You also know that I've encountered too many dangers along the way. In the past, there were people protecting me, but what about in the future? I can't always have people protecting me. Sooner or later, I will have to face those dangers alone, so I must become stronger. Bai Yu was silent for a moment. She suddenly looked up at Qinchuan and said seriously to Qinchuan, I can protect you. Qinchuan paused and then smiled. I am a man. If I need a girl to protect me, how embarrassing would that be? Bai Yu was silent again. Faced with this seemingly unsolvable problem, she did not know how to answer. Forget it, don't think too much. Qinchuan clapped his hands and said to Bai Yu, Wait for me, I will go wash the dishes. Qinchuan cleaned up the plates and went into the kitchen to wash the dishes. Not long after, Bai Yu also came in. She stood behind Qinchuan and shouted, Qinchuan. Hearing Bai Yu's call, Qinchuan subconsciously turned around. He was stunned when he saw the veil on Bai Yu's face. He asked in confusion, What are you doing? I will cover my face, not speak, and change my clothes. No one will know that I am a woman, Bai Yu replied seriously. Bai Yu answered seriously. This was the best idea she could think of. Qinchuan was stunned. He did not expect Bai Yu to still be thinking about the previous topic. It was just a casual joke, but Bai Yu foolishly took it seriously. Why are you suddenly so good to me? I am so touched. Qinchuan put down the clean chopsticks in his hand and walked in front of Bai Yu. He reached out and rubbed Bai Yu's snow-white hair. He said with satisfaction, I have wanted to do this for a long time, and now my wish has finally come true. It feels really good. Bai Yu seemed to resist Qinchuan's intimate action. She took a step back and said in a low voice, Don't do this. Why? Qinchuan was curious. Bai Yu looked a little disappointed. I am a monster. Hearing Bai Yu's words, Qinchuan was stunned. He could not help but think of their conversation in the room that day. Bai Yu had told him personally that she was not a pure human, but a monster. How can there be such a cute monster? Qinchuan smiled. You were never a monster. No. Bai Yu shook her head. I am a monster. Okay, then I am a monster too. Qin Chuan was helpless. Is this okay? Bai Yu was stunned. She looked at Qin Chuan in astonishment. This was the first time in her life that she had heard someone admit that they were a monster. It looks so sweet. Su Yuluo squatted on the roof of the restaurant and looked at the moon in the sky. She could not help but roll on the roof. Ningya saw Su Yuluo's childish behavior and could not help but roll her eyes. What are you doing? I also want to be in a sweet relationship, Su Yuluo said to Ningya in an extremely envious tone. Every time I see the sweet looks of the students in pairs, I'm so envious. I also want to find a boy who is more important than me in his heart and have a passionate relationship. Ningya rolled her eyes at Su Yuluo. You shouldn't find a boy. You should find an old man. I am such a cute little girl. Of course I have to find a boy. Su Yuluo glanced at Ningya. As a young girl, I don't want to hear you talk about age. I don't want to talk to you, idiot. Ningya stood up and looked at the moon in the sky. She suddenly asked Su Yuluo, what do you think about the monster that Bai Yu mentioned? When I accepted Bai Yu as my disciple, I already checked her. Her physical characteristics are no different from us humans. Everything is normal. Su Yuluo sighed. Perhaps the monster that Bai Yu mentioned is her personality. Bai Yu had always been taciturn and reclusive. It was not an exaggeration to say that she had a monster-like personality. Perhaps she is referring to her ability. Ningya narrowed her eyes. This is the first time I've heard of a blood attribute talent rune. Bai Yu rarely showed her ability to control blood in front of others, but it was no secret to Ningya and Su Yuluo. The blood attribute is indeed rare and overbearing, but I believe that Bai Yu is a good child and will not act recklessly. A rare serious expression appeared on Su Yuluo's face. If one day she does something unforgivable, I will personally clean up the house. Chapter 204. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. In this half a month, Qin Chuan rarely went out and spent almost all of his time on cultivation. Even so, he was still a distance away from the peak of the Qi refining stage. At this time, the Black Moon Combat Academy also ushered in a new semester. During this winter break, not everyone was resting. This was because on the day Long Xiao returned to school, it was discovered that she was already a foundation establishment stage cultivator. The news of Long Xiao advancing to the foundation establishment stage could be said to have alarmed all of the returning students. One had to know that many of them had only advanced to the foundation establishment stage in their second year. There were even some who had advanced to the foundation establishment stage in their third year. Compared to these people, Long Xiao was undoubtedly a genius among geniuses. Just when everyone thought that Long Xiao was the first person to advance to the foundation establishment stage among the freshmen, someone suddenly revealed that Bai Yu had already advanced to the foundation establishment stage before the new year. She had advanced half a month earlier than Long Xiao. In other words, among the freshmen, there were already 2 foundation establishment stage cultivators. During the freshmen's class meeting, Long Xiao and Bai Yu inevitably became the focus of everyone's attention. The other focus of attention was Qin Chuan. When Qin Chuan first entered the school, he was regarded as the most talented student among the freshmen. Many people did not expect that he would still be in the Qi refining stage. Everyone thought that after Long Xiao and Bai Yu advanced to the foundation establishment stage, Qin Chuan would no longer be the number 1 among the freshmen. However, what made people feel very strange was that whether it was Bai Yu or Long Xiao, their attitude towards Qin Chuan did not change at all. Hey, when are you going to advance? Long Xiao looked at Qin Chuan with a puzzled expression. This guy's aura was clearly stronger than when she was at the peak of the Qi refining stage. However, he still had not advanced to the foundation establishment stage. Could it be that he did not have a foundation establishment liquid? As the first daughter of the Long family, Long Xiao had been using the best cultivation resources since she was a child. As early as many years ago, the family had already prepared the best quality foundation building liquid for her, and she could use it at any time. She had never been worried about cultivation resources. Therefore, she felt that the reason why Qin hadn't advanced to the foundation building stage was because he didn't have the foundation building liquid. For something as important as advancing to the foundation establishment stage, it was naturally better to do it as soon as possible. It's not time yet. Qin smiled and said to Long Xiao, "You can't wait for me to advance to the foundation establishment stage. Don't tell me you want to challenge me after I advance to the foundation establishment stage?" Long Xiao wasn't surprised that Qin saw through her true thoughts. She nodded and said, "After I lost to you, I've been looking for a chance to win back. Now that I'm already in the foundation establishment stage, and you're still in the qi refining stage, of course I can't challenge you under these circumstances. Tell me, when do you plan to advance to the foundation establishment stage?" "I really don't know." Qin helplessly spread out his hands. He really didn't know when he would be able to cultivate to the perfection stage. At least for now, he didn't have the feeling of perfection. "You don't need to force Qin to answer." Lu Zi, who was sitting at the side, couldn't stand it anymore. Cultivation is a matter of course. If it was possible, I believe Qin would have already advanced to the foundation establishment stage. Lu Zi also felt that it was a bit strange that Qin hadn't advanced to the foundation establishment stage. She was also in the perfection stage of the qi refining stage. The reason why she hadn't advanced to the foundation establishment stage was because her grandfather wanted to find a better quality foundation building liquid for her, so she delayed her advancement until now. Qin shouldn't have any concerns about the foundation building liquid. Long Xiao shrugged and said, "I'm just worried that his delay in advancing to the foundation establishment stage will affect the 6 Great Academies ranking competition." With Long Xiao's strength, she could naturally participate in the 6 Great Academies ranking competition. However, Long Xiao wasn't satisfied with just participating in the competition. She wanted to participate in the official ranking competition and fight against the geniuses from the previous batch. "Don't worry, the 6 Great Academies ranking competition has already been decided. The 4 of you will be representing our Black Moon Combat Academy." A burst of hearty laughter rang out from behind everyone. Han Ting had arrived in the classroom at some point in time, and he had silently walked behind everyone. Looking at Long Xiao and the others, Han Ting lamented, "It's true that each new generation excels the previous one. Each generation is stronger than the last. I've only advanced to the foundation establishment stage not too long ago, but I've already been overtaken by juniors like you. This makes me feel like I've lost face." Han Ting had advanced to the foundation establishment stage a few months ago after the end of the Beast Wave. It had only been 3 months since then, and he was still in the early stages of the foundation establishment stage. In terms of strength, he might not be stronger than Long Xiao and Bai Yu. Because of this, Han Ting lamented that each generation was stronger than the last. "Senior Han, why are you here?" Qin was rather happy when he saw Han Ting arrive. After all, he and Han Ting had fought side by side during the Beast Wave, so their relationship could be considered quite good. "I've heard that 2 of our geniuses have already advanced to the foundation establishment stage, so I've come on behalf of the Student Council to invite you to join the Student Council." Han Ting chuckled and said to Qin, "The Student Council is currently preparing for the upcoming ranking competition. The 4 of you will be able to fill in the vacancies of the freshman representative. As for the official representative position, that will depend on your strength. According to the rules of the 6 Great Academies ranking competition, There were a total of 4 freshman representatives and 5 official representatives. With the strength of freshmen like Qin Chuan and the others, it was still somewhat difficult for them to obtain an official representative position. However, it was not completely hopeless because the strongest person in the student council was only at the mid-stage of the foundation establishment stage, and there were only 3 of them. If you have time, why don't you follow me to the student council? Han Ting invited Qin Chuan and the others, intending to bring Qin Chuan and the others to the student council in advance to familiarize themselves with the environment. Qin Chuan and the others naturally would not reject Han Ting's invitation. They stood up and walked out of the classroom with Han Ting. At this moment they bumped into Chen Chongxing, who had just arrived. Seeing Qin Chuan and the others leaving, Chen Chongxing was a little surprised and asked, "Boss, where are you going?" "We're going to the student council to take a look." Qin Chuan chuckled and said to Chen Chongxing, "Let's meet again when we're back." Chen Chongxing was stunned when he heard that. As he watched Qin Chuan and the others leave, the smile in his eyes gradually turned into loneliness and sadness. He was the only one who could not keep up with the progress of the 4-man team that had once roamed the cursed lands. Chapter 205. Qin Chuan originally thought that the Black Moon Combat Academy's student council would be within the school. However, when Han Ting led them out of the school gates, Qin Chuan realized that the student council was actually in the Azure Ancient City outside of the school. You must be wondering why the student council is in the Azure Ancient City and not within the school grounds. Han Ting noticed the puzzled expression on Qin Chuan's face, and he chuckled and said, "I had the same question all those years ago. The reason the student union is based in Dark Blue City is because our student union possesses a teleportation formation that belongs to us." Qin Chuan was shocked when he heard this. The student council actually had their own teleportation array? From what I know, setting up a teleportation array is a very troublesome matter. With the student council's strength, it shouldn't be possible. Long Shao had some understanding of teleportation arrays. After all, their Long family had their own teleportation array and even had the array diagram to set it up. Only a powerful nascent soul stage cultivator could inscribe such an array diagram. A mere Black Moon Combat Academy's student council couldn't possibly have a nascent soul stage student, right? I'm not sure about the origin of this teleportation array, but I'm sure that it's our student council's exclusive teleportation array. It leads directly to the Elven City's office. Han Ting chuckled. Our student council students often have to go out and train. Every time, we have to apply to the school to use the teleportation array, which is a bit troublesome. Therefore, our student council's exclusive teleportation array provides us with a lot of convenience. As Ningya's student, Qin Chuan didn't find it troublesome to use the school's teleportation array. After all, Ningya had always used the teleportation array directly and didn't need to apply to anyone. He had followed Ningya to use the teleportation array many times and had gradually developed the same habit. The deacons in charge of guarding the teleportation array also turned a blind eye to it and didn't find it strange. Over there is our student council's encampment. It will also be our main activity area in the future. Han Ting pointed at a church-like building at the end of the Bluestone Road and proudly said to Qin Chuan and the rest, "This church is called the Black Moon Church. It's a building from 10,000 years ago and still retains its appearance. What do you think? Don't you think it's very charming?" Qin Chuan was a little surprised. He did not expect the student union to be based in this church. Back then, when he and Lu Zi were strolling around the city, they had passed by this church. At that time, he sighed with emotion and said that it was impossible to see such a simple bluestone building outside. He thought that this church had at least 1,000 years of history, but he did not expect that this church had a history of more than 10,000 years. Even the experienced and knowledgeable Long Shao was stunned by the majestic church in front of her. She had never traveled in Azure Ancient City before, so this was the first time she knew that there was such an ancient building in Azure Ancient City. Our Long family has a Buddhist hall that has a history of 3,000 years. It's the oldest building I've ever seen. It's made of reinforced concrete. Compared to this church, it pales in comparison. Long Xiao asked Han Ting expectantly, "Can I take some photos? My father is very interested in old buildings. I'm sure he'll like this church." "Of course." Han Ting laughed and said, "In fact, many of us will take photos in front of the church after joining the student union because it's a good thing to show off to friends." In this way, before entering the church, everyone turned into a tourist group and began to take photos around the church. Even Bai Yu, who was not interested, was forcefully pulled by Qin Chuan to take a photo in front of the church. After the photo session ended, Han Ting led everyone into the interior of the church. The interior of the church did not maintain the appearance of 10,000 years ago like the outside. The front hall was transformed into the Student Union's mission hall. Here, one could accept missions entrusted by the school or from the outside world. In the middle hall, there was the Student Union's meeting room and exchange area. The members of the Student Union could exchange their cultivation experience here and also carry out small barter transactions. Finally, in the backyard of the church, there was only a spacious public cultivation room and a garden. As for the teleportation array, it was built in the center of the garden. It did not look any different from the school's teleportation array, except that it was slightly smaller and could transport fewer people at a time. However, it was enough for the student union, which did not have many members to begin with. Han Ting led Qinchuan's group around the 3 halls. Along the way they met quite a few seniors. These seniors all had great goodwill towards Qinchuan's group of 4 because they had already heard of Qinchuan's group. Thus, they were not surprised that Qinchuan's group had joined the student union. As you can see, this is the basic situation of our student union. Normally, there aren't many people in our student union because most of them are out on missions or in secluded cultivation in the miniature world. If you have any questions, you can look for the service staff in the front hall. They will answer your questions about the student union in detail. Han Ting smiled as he looked at Qinchuan's group of 4. Finally, he asked, "Then, are you willing to join the student union and become a member of the Black Moon Combat Academy's student union?" Of course. Qinchuan smiled as he agreed. Only by joining the student union would one be able to participate in the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament. Naturally, he would not refuse. As expected, Lu Zi, Bai Yu, and Long Xiao also agreed to join the student union and become new members. The procedures for joining the student union were also relatively simple. Qinchuan's group of 4 only needed to place their Black Moon badges in the student union's certification office. Once their Black Moon badges were verified, they would be considered to have joined the student union. A new student union section appeared in their school's intranet. There were many documents and videos stored in the student union section. Most of them were knowledge and insights regarding cultivation and array glyphs left behind by the student union's seniors. Members of the student union could access them at any time. This was one of the benefits of joining the student union. Including Qinchuan's group of 4, there were a total of 62 members in the student union. Aside from Qinchuan and Lu Zi, everyone else was at the foundation establishment stage. However, most of them were at the early stage of the foundation establishment stage. There were 16 people at the mid-stage of the foundation establishment stage, and only Zhu Feng was at the late stage. Out of the 16 people at the mid-stage of the foundation establishment stage, 13 of them were third-year seniors. In other words, only 3 of the second-year seniors were at the mid-stage of the foundation establishment stage. Only 3 at the mid-stage of the foundation establishment stage. Qinchuan was somewhat surprised. Doesn't that mean that there are at least 2 people at the early stage of the foundation establishment stage in the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament? This kind of strength was a bit too weak. Chapter 206. Faced with Qinchuan's question, Han Ting bitterly smiled and helplessly said to Qinchuan, "You're right. Once the chairman and the other third-year seniors enter the 4th year, our student council's strength will drop by a large amount. We might need to wait until next year to recover. If we wait until next year, the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament will have already ended." Long Xiao frowned and asked in confusion, "Why is our student council's overall strength so weak?" Qinchuan did not have a deep understanding of the other academies, but Long Xiao had a certain level of understanding of the other 5 academies. According to what she knew, the other 5 academies' student council had many late-stage foundation establishment students and even more mid-stage foundation establishment students, not to mention early-stage foundation establishment students. Compared to the other 5 academies, the Black Moon Combat Academy's student council was not only lacking in numbers, but its quality was also inferior. This gap was just too great. The main reason is that the difference in numbers between our academy and the other 5 academies is too great. Han Ting helplessly spread out his hands and said, "You should all understand that our academy only recruits a little more than 100 new students every year, including auditing students. There are only a few official students and even fewer official students who have the qualifications to join the student council. On the other hand, the other 5 academies recruit more than 1,000 students every year, which is 10 times more than ours. Even if only a tenth of these 1,000 people can advance to the foundation establishment stage, that's still more than 100 people. It's more than enough to match up to all of our new students." Hearing Han Ting's explanation, Qinchuan and the other 3 could not help but be stunned. They had not considered the problem of numbers, but now that they thought about it, they felt that it was normal for the student council to be weak because of the small number of people. Moreover, our academy's enrollment requirement is that one must possess outstanding natural talent in the Tao of Talisman formations. So no matter if it's auditing students or official students, the worst of the students in our academy is a grade 1 talisman formation master. When we study the Tao of Talisman formations, it naturally delays our cultivation, causing the advancement of our cultivations to become slow. On the other hand, most of the students of the other 5 academies aren't talisman formation masters. In this way, they're able to place all their energy on cultivation, and their cultivations will naturally improve slightly faster than us. As this goes on, the gap between us will naturally appear. Speaking of this situation, Han Ting was also somewhat helpless. Who asked their academy's system to be like this? If that's the case, it's reasonable. Lu Zi nodded her head and said, "The number of symbol array masters in the other 5 academies combined might not even be as many as ours. This can be considered our academy's advantage. At that time, when we use battle arrays, we can definitely make up for the gap between our realms." Hearing LVZ's words, Qinchuan and Long Xiao both nodded in agreement. The powerful attack power of a battle formation master was enough to make up for the small difference in cultivation realm. "I'm afraid that's not possible." Han Ting didn't know how many times he had laughed bitterly today. He looked at Qinchuan's group of 4 and sighed. According to the rules of the 6 Great Academies ranking competition, we aren't allowed to bring array discs with talisman arrays onto the stage. We can only bring talisman brushes and blank array discs onto the stage. If we want to inscribe a battle array, then we have to inscribe it on the stage. But do you think our opponents will stupidly stand there and give us the chance to inscribe a battle array? Lu Zi was somewhat astonished. The 6 Great Academies ranking tournaments rules were clearly to restrict the Black Moon Combat Academy's performance. There's nothing we can do about it. According to the rules of the 6 Great Academies ranking competition, only weapons are allowed to be brought onto the stage. Nothing else is allowed to be brought onto the stage. Talisman brushes and array discs are equivalent to our weapons, but finished array discs are not allowed. Otherwise, if everyone were to bring array discs inscribed with Class 3 or Class 4 battle arrays onto the stage, there would be a big problem. According to what you've said, it's basically impossible for our Black Moon Combat Academy to achieve good results in the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament. In the past, we were able to defeat the Starry Sky Academy. If we were lucky, we might even be able to defeat the Divine Sword Academy, which specializes in refining tools, and obtain 4th place. But this year, it's not certain. Why do you say that? There's already news that a sword genius has appeared in the Divine Sword Academy. He's the last disciple of the Divine Sword Villa's Sword Immortal. Although his cultivation is only at the initial foundation establishment stage, he can already easily defeat a mid-foundation establishment stage opponent. Before the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament, it's not impossible for him to step into the mid-foundation establishment stage. At that time, with his strength, it's not impossible for him to defeat a late foundation establishment stage expert. Senior, the person you're talking about is the Su family's Su Kuang, who's also known as the Little Sword Immortal, right? Long Xiao suddenly asked. She still had some understanding of Su Kuang. That's right, it's the Su family's Su Kuang. Han Ting nodded and said, "To be honest, there's no one in our student union who has any hope of defeating Su Kuang. If the Divine Sword Academy has Su Kuang, then what about the Starry Sky Academy?" Long Xiao frowned and said, "Could it be the Queen of Blades?" Hearing Long Xiao mention the Queen of Blades, Qinchuan's eyes couldn't help but slightly move. "That's right, it's the Queen of Blades." Han Ting nodded and said with emotion, "This Zhou Lin, who's known as the Queen of Blades, is definitely one of the geniuses with the fastest cultivation speed. Last year, she was only at the initial foundation establishment stage. Now, she's already at the mid-foundation establishment stage. Before the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament, she may even break through to the late foundation establishment stage. Not only is this person's cultivation level high, but her strength is also extremely strong. She's known as the #1 person in the Starry Sky Academy. From this, it can be seen that this Zhou Lin will definitely be our great enemy." Hearing this, Lu Zi looked at Qinchuan and asked, "Qinchuan, do you have anything to say?" "What should I say?" Qinchuan grinned. "Senior Zhou Lin is mighty and domineering?" Seeing the smile on Qinchuan's face, Han Ting was stunned for a moment. As if he thought of something, he suddenly said, "I remember that Zhou Lin and Qinchuan both came from the state capital of Qing. Do you know each other?" "We do know each other. Senior Zhou Lin and I have a pretty good relationship." Qinchuan frankly admitted that he and Zhou Lin knew each other. He shrugged and said, "But I don't think that Senior Zhou Lin will be merciful to me in the arena because of this." The 6 Great Academies ranking tournament was a matter of resource allocation for each academy. Zhou Lin would definitely not be merciful to anyone. So, in this year's 6 Great Academies ranking tournament, our Black Moon Combat Academy is likely to be ranked last? Long Xiao frowned. She wasn't someone who liked to lose. Generally, after the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament, the last-ranked academy will be challenged by the top 10 academies. We might not even be able to win against them. The more Han Ting spoke, the more bitter he felt. This feeling was too sullen. Chapter 207. If the Black Moon Combat Academy was defeated by the 10 Great Academies, then they would lose their status as one of the 6 Great Academies and become an ordinary academy. This was something that no one in the Black Moon Combat Academy could accept. However, it was not impossible for something like this to happen in this year's 6 Great Academies ranking tournament. This news was undoubtedly one disaster after another for everyone. Not only do we have to face the threats from the other 5 Great Academies, but we also have to be wary of the 10 great academies behind us. This matter is too troublesome. Qin Chuan felt a headache coming on. If the Black Moon Combat Academy really lost its status as one of the 6 great academies in their hands, then they would become the eternal sinners of the Black Moon Combat Academy. Qin Chuan, ever since I met you, I've always had high hopes for you. The chairman also thinks highly of you. All of us hope that you can stand out and become a genius that can stand shoulder to shoulder with Su Kuang and Zhou Lin. Therefore, you have to work hard. Han Ting looked at Qin Chuan with an extremely serious expression and said, although this is very irresponsible and will bring you a lot of pressure, we can't just watch the Black Moon Combat Academy lose its status as one of the 6 great academies in our hands. Therefore, we're counting on you. Senior, I'm still at the Qi condensation stage. It's not appropriate for me to stand shoulder to shoulder with that little sword fairy and Senior Zhou Lin. Qin Chuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If he were to fight with these 2 right now, he would be beaten to the ground. However, I can sense that your aura is stronger than anyone at the great circle of the Qi condensation stage. Han Ting pursed his lips and said, I believe that once you advance to the foundation establishment stage, you'll definitely bring us a huge surprise. I hope so. Qin Chuan was helpless. He had promised Zhu Feng that he would participate in the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament and obtain a good result. Now that he knew of the Black Moon Combat Academy's predicament, he naturally had to work even harder. Qin Chuan and the other 3, who had come to the student council in high spirits, left with heavy hearts. They had never thought that they would face such a difficult situation right after joining the student council. This is my chance to prove myself. Long Shao suddenly turned his head and looked deeply at Qin Chuan. His tone was incomparably serious as he said, in the past, everyone thought that I, Long Shao, was only able to reach where I am today because of the Long family's support. This time, in the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament, I will prove to everyone that my strength is not only because I have the Long family behind me, but also because I am Long Shao. There was nothing more important than leading the student council to achieve a good result in the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament to prove himself. Seeing the determined expression on Long Zhao's face, Qin Chuan smiled and said to Long Shao, what you said makes sense. We can work hard together. And me. Lu Zi didn't want to be left behind. I'll go back and prepare to advance to the foundation establishment stage. I want to improve my cultivation as soon as possible. And me. Bai Yu, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. After the class meeting of the new semester, Qin Chuan entered into a state of cultivation once more. This time, Qin Chuan had already decided that he absolutely wouldn't exit his closed-door cultivation until he advanced to the foundation establishment stage. During this period of time when Qin Chuan was in closed-door cultivation, LV Xiangyang successfully brought back a bottle of top-grade foundation establishment elixir for Lu Zi. Lu Zi naturally advanced to the foundation establishment stage and became the 3rd person amongst the new students to advance to the foundation establishment stage financially. In this way, Qin Chuan, who was in closed-door cultivation, received even more attention. Qin Chuan was completely unaware of what was happening in the outside world. Even if he knew, he wouldn't take it to heart, let alone ask about it. During this period of nearly a month, Qin Chuan had been in closed-door cultivation at the Talisman Formation Masters Guild in the City of Elves. The location of his closed-door cultivation was naturally Li Feng's cultivation room and small world. Before Li Feng left, he gave Qin Chuan the authority to use the cultivation room and small world. Since Qin Chuan wanted to enter closed-door cultivation, he naturally wouldn't waste such an excellent cultivation environment. At this moment, Qin Chuan was sitting cross-legged on the floor of the cultivation room, quietly cultivating. Under the dual effects of the spirit absorption talisman formation and the spirit injection talisman formation, Qinchuan's speed of absorbing spirit energy far exceeded that of ordinary people. It was also because of this that blue dragon scales began to uncontrollably appear on the surface of Qinchuan's body, one after another, looking exceptionally demonic. Phew! Qinchuan gently exhaled and stopped cultivating. He slowly opened his eyes and lowered his head to look at the dragon scales on the back of his hand that were gradually receding. His expression became somewhat gloomy. As early as half a month ago, he felt that he was about to reach the state of perfection of the qi refinement stage. However, he was still unable to find the feeling of being on the verge of advancement. He kept feeling that something was missing. In the following half a month, Qinchuan had been searching for the feeling of being on the verge of advancement, but he had been unable to succeed. This made Qinchuan feel extremely vexed. Today, after cultivating, Qinchuan couldn't help but think of Azure Dragon Song Hao as he looked at the dragon scales on the back of his hand. Perhaps Song Hao would know why he was still unable to advance to the foundation establishment stage. This was Qinchuan's third time coming to the Dragon Spirit Lake. The first 2 times, he was accompanied by someone. This time, he was alone. After arriving at the shore of the Dragon Spirit Lake, Qinchuan did not hesitate and directly stepped into the Dragon Spirit Lake. The moment his body submerged in the Dragon Spirit Lake, a powerful suction force suddenly came from the depths of the lake and pulled his body over. Song Hao, who was entrenched at the bottom of the lake, looked at Qinchuan who was flying over from afar. A subtle look flashed through his golden dragon eyes. He said in a low voice, "You are no longer a pure human, nor a pure demon. How strange, I have never seen a human like you." Hearing Song Hao's words, Qinchuan was puzzled. Was he a human or a demon? Qinchuan pursed his lips and said, "Senior, I have been working hard to cultivate all this time, but I still haven't found the feeling of advancing to the foundation establishment stage. Why is that? My guess is that it has something to do with the dragon blood in my body. If it's just the dragon blood, it won't affect your advancement to the foundation establishment stage. Your body has also absorbed a large amount of demon energy. I think it must be the work of Lion Duke." Qinchuan couldn't help but think of the secret blood essence medicine. Could it be that he had been unable to advance to the foundation establishment stage for so long because of the secret blood essence medicine? In response to Qinchuan's puzzlement, Song Hao said calmly, "If you only have the dragon blood in your body, you are still a normal human. But because you have absorbed a large amount of demon energy, the dragon blood in your body has been completely activated and changed your bloodline. Therefore, your body is no longer a pure human, but a half-demon state. Now you are simply trying to advance to the foundation establishment stage using the human cultivation method. Naturally, you are in a difficult situation." Qinchuan frowned and asked, "Senior, may I ask what I need to do to get out of this situation?" Chapter 208. Young man, I don't know if this is your fortune or your misfortune. Song Lao slowly walked in front of Qinchuan and said faintly to Qinchuan, "Now, there are 3 paths in front of you." Qinchuan's mood became inexplicably heavy when he heard this. He pursed his lips and said, "Senior, please tell me which 3 paths are." "The first way is to extract the dragon blood from your body and expel the boundless demonic energy from your body at the same time. This way you can turn back into a pure human. However, in this way, not only will your current cultivation be completely crippled, you won't even be able to cultivate in the future." Song Hao didn't need to say more. Qinchuan rejected the first path. He was absolutely unwilling to give up his current cultivation realm and become a cripple. Seeing Qinchuan's rejection of the first path, Song Hao continued, "The second path is to let me completely transform your body and turn you into a demon. You will become a branch of the Dragon Clan, the Dragon Human Clan. In this way, you will no longer be a human, but a demon. This junior doesn't want to become a demon. Qin Chuan also didn't want to choose the second path. He was a human and had never thought of changing his own race. Then you only have the third path left. Song Hao looked deeply at Qin Chuan and said, "Continue to maintain the status quo and live in a half-human, half-demon state. In this way, you will still be a human, but the dragon blood flowing in your body will be demon blood." Qin Chuan frowned slightly and said, "In this case, this junior will never be able to advance to the foundation establishment stage in this life? As long as you can maintain the balance of being half-human, half-demon, not to mention the foundation establishment stage, even the golden core stage and the nascent soul stage will not be a problem. This junior is slow-witted, please enlighten me." Qin Chuan respectfully asked Song Hao for guidance. It was too difficult for him to figure this out himself. To put it simply, you're only focusing on the cultivation of your spiritual power and neglecting your demonic power. That's why the power in your body is unbalanced. Now you only need to cultivate your demonic power and let your demonic power and spiritual power reach a balance in your body. Then, the problem you're facing will naturally be solved. Qin Chuan was somewhat astonished. Cultivate demonic energy? How was he supposed to cultivate like this? Song Hao saw Qin Chuan's confusion and reminded him, "The dragonization art I taught you is an excellent secret skill of the monster clan. The dragonization art focuses on cultivating the physical body, while your human clan's cultivation method focuses on cultivating the internal. The two can reach a balance, one internal and one external." Qin Chuan's eyes lit up when he heard that. In other words, I only need to concentrate on cultivating the dragonization technique, and I'll be able to find the balance point? During this period of time, Qin Chuan had been practicing the thunder-devouring art and had not practiced the dragonization art. Now, with Song Hao's reminder, Qin Chuan understood that if he had practiced the dragonization art earlier, perhaps he would have been a foundation establishment cultivator by now. That's right. Song Hao looked deeply at Qin Chuan and said, "If you're not afraid of me, you can cultivate here. I can guide you." Hearing that Song Hao wanted to guide him, Qin Chuan could not help but be overjoyed. His dragonization art originally came from Song Hao. Now that he could have Song Hao's personal guidance, it could not be better. Although Song Hao was of the monster clan and he was of the human clan, Qin Chuan did not think that Song Hao would do anything to harm him. With Song Hao's strength, it was a simple matter to kill him. There was no need for him to go through so much trouble. Qin Chuan had always been a man of action. After knowing how to solve the dilemma in front of him, he immediately threw his mind into cultivation and began to concentrate on cultivating the dragonization art. The dragonization art was a secret technique of the monster clan. After being modified by Song Hao, it was suitable for the human clan to cultivate. Qin Chuan had the bloodline of the dragon clan. Once he mastered the dragonization art, he would be able to transform into a dragon and fight with the body of a dragon. His physical body was so strong that he could even fight across realms. Song Hao sat at the side and stared at Qin Chuan, who was cultivating the dragonization art. He could not help but think of his dead son. If Qing had not died, perhaps the one sitting in front of me right now would be Qing. It was not easy for the dragon clan to pass down their heritage. Song Hao had a son at an old age, but he lost one. The pain of having to send off his son while he was old had tortured Song Hao's mind day and night. Now, he was willing to assist Qin Chuan in his cultivation because he hoped that Qin Chuan could kill Qin Chongxiao's grandson as soon as possible and avenge his dead son. As for whether Qin Chuan would go back on his word, Song Hao did not consider this. Qin Chuan had no way out now. Going back on his word would not benefit Qin Chuan at all. It would only bring him death. Let me see how far you can grow. Song Hao stared deeply at Qin Chuan and slowly closed his eyes. Qin Chuan originally thought that he could cultivate the dragonization art in half a month and find a balance between the inner and outer parts. However, when he touched the true essence of the dragonization art, Qin Chuan realized that he had underestimated the dragonization art. The dragonization art was so profound that it was not something he could comprehend in a short period of time. Just like that, Qin Chuan stayed at the bottom of the Dragon Spirit Lake for 2 months. Azure Ancient City. Ningya sat on the balcony and looked calmly at the scenery of the ancient city in the distance. She said to Lu Zi, who was standing beside her, calmly, "I told you, I don't know where Qin Chuan went. It's useless for you to come here every day." Hearing Ningya's words, Lu Zi couldn't help but ask anxiously, "Teacher Ning, you really can't find Qin Chuan?" It had been almost 3 months since they parted that day. In less than half a month, they would set off for Star Dragon City to participate in the 6th Great Academy's ranking competition. The internal selection of the student union was about to begin, but Qin Chuan was still nowhere to be seen. No one could contact him. How could they not be anxious? Qin Chuan once reported to me that he was going to the Talisman Array Master Association in the Elf City to borrow Li Feng's cultivation room for closed-door cultivation. I went there to take a look. According to the people in the Talisman Array Master Association, Qin Chuan never returned after leaving 2 months ago. When Qin Chuan left, he was still in the Qi refinement realm. Speaking of this matter, Ningya was also somewhat helpless. She couldn't understand Qin Chuan. His aura was clearly extremely powerful, and it could be said that he had completely reached the limit of the Qi refinement realm. However, he still refused to advance to the Foundation establishment realm and even lost contact at this critical moment. What exactly was he playing at? The day after tomorrow is the internal selection of the student union. What should we do if Qin Chuan still doesn't show up? Lu Zi was very helpless. She couldn't make the decision on such a big matter. Only Ningya could leave a place for Qin Chuan. Let's leave it to fate. Ningya pursed her lips slightly. I hope he can rush back in time. Chapter 209. At the bottom of the Dragon Spirit Lake, Qin Chuan sat cross-legged on a bluestone. His breath was restrained and his eyes were shining. He looked at the top-grade Foundation establishment elixir in his hand and took a deep breath. He had been waiting for this day for too long. Let's begin, kid. Let me see what you'll become after advancing to the Foundation establishment stage. Through these 2 months of interaction, Song Hao could see that Qin Chuan was a very hard-working and ambitious person. His attitude towards cultivation could be said to be quite serious and serious. Such a person, as long as he had a little bit of talent, his future would be limitless. And Qin Chuan was more than just a little bit of talent. Today, Qin Chuan was cultivating the mysterious top-grade cultivation method of the human race. He had the blood of the dragon clan and his body had been refined by the secret blood elixir. His body could be said to have been strengthened to the limit. The power he could erupt was definitely far beyond that of ordinary people. Once Qin Chuan advanced to the Foundation establishment stage, his strength would definitely be incomparable to that of an ordinary cultivator at the early stage of the Foundation establishment stage. Because of this, Song Hao was very curious about Qin Chuan. He wanted to see how strong Qin Chuan could be at the early stage of the Foundation establishment stage. Qin Chuan had now cultivated the dragonization technique to the small success realm and reached an internal and external balance with the thunder-devouring art. Because of this, he felt that his heart was full of perfection and finally saw the hope of advancing to the Foundation establishment stage. On the bluestone, Qin Chuan took a deep breath and opened the container in his hand. He swallowed the Foundation establishment elixir in one gulp. The milky white Foundation establishment elixir instantly turned into a warm current and quickly rushed to Qin Chuan's limbs and bones. At this moment, Qin Chuan felt comfortable all over and had the urge to moan out loud. Thump, thump, thump. Under the effect of this warm current, Qinchuan's heartbeat became faster and faster, and the speed of his blood circulation increased by several times. This warm current didn't only affect Qinchuan's physical body, but it also affected Qinchuan's brain and spiritual power. At this time, Qinchuan's talent rune suddenly trembled and expanded. It turned from a rune into a giant that blotted out the sky. It seemed as if his brain was about to burst open as it released a brilliant divine might. The rune sword that had been resting in Qinchuan's brain seemed to have been affected by the change in the talent rune after being dormant for so many days. It started to tremble slightly, as if it was about to awaken. At the same time that the talent rune was mutating, Qinchuan's physical body was also changing. Blue dragon scales appeared on the surface of Qinchuan's body, completely covering Qinchuan's body. His body sometimes expanded and turned into a dragon's body, and sometimes shrank and turned into a human's. Every time it expanded, his body would split open and blood would spurt out. The warm current would instantly repair his damaged body, and every time it was broken and repaired, the strength of Qinchuan's body would increase by a level. Whether it was the changes in his physical body or the changes in his brain, they all had a huge impact on Qinchuan's willpower. Intense pain constantly washed over Qinchuan's nervous system, making Qinchuan feel so much pain that he wished he was dead. Just when Qinchuan couldn't bear the pain anymore and thought that his whole body was about to explode, his body suddenly maintained its human form. The sky-covering talent rune in his brain also suddenly shrank, compressing the majestic power to the extreme and turning into a thumb-sized pill. This pill was divided into two from the middle. The left side was pure gold, while the right side was pure blue. At the same time, the warm current of the Foundation establishment liquid completely exploded in Qinchuan's body, turning into endless energy that poured into Qinchuan's limbs and bones. Qinchuan couldn't help but feel comfortable and carefree, as if his whole body was soaking in a hot spring. Qinchuan's pores suddenly discharged layer after layer of black impurities, emitting a thick stench. After these impurities were discharged, Qinchuan's body also became clean and flawless, sparkling and translucent like white jade. Qinchuan's hair also changed from its original black color to a clear blue. Whoosh! Finally, Qinchuan's will was able to wake up. At this moment, he felt that his body was unprecedentedly strong, but at the same time, he also felt unprecedentedly weak. Immediately operate your cultivation method and absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. A thunderous roar sounded in Qinchuan's ears. Subconsciously, Qinchuan operated the thunder-devouring art. At this moment, Qinchuan felt that his body had turned into a huge black hole, crazily and endlessly devouring the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. After the spiritual energy was devoured by him, it turned into pure liquid spiritual energy, stored in his dantian, constantly nourishing his body. The process of Qinchuan devouring spiritual energy of heaven and earth this time lasted for a whole night. When he woke up again, it was already the next morning. On the bluestone, Qinchuan slowly opened his eyes and spat out a mouthful of turbid air. Then, he clenched his fists and couldn't help but show a touch of excitement on his face. Today, he had finally succeeded in advancing to the Foundation establishment stage. I really didn't expect that you would have such a miraculous performance when advancing to the Foundation establishment stage. Song Hao's dragon head suddenly appeared in front of Qinchuan and exclaimed. Hearing this, Qinchuan asked curiously, "Senior, what do you mean by miraculous performance? You can transform into a dragon with the body of a human, and there should be some changes in your brain that I can't detect. Isn't that miraculous enough? I don't know what's going on either." Qinchuan smiled bitterly. He naturally knew about the changes in the talent runes in the brain, but he had never heard of such a change in the brain when advancing to the Foundation establishment stage. He really couldn't tell what the pill that was half gold and half blue was, and he didn't know what it was used for. Since there are such miraculous performances, it will naturally be useful in the future. Song Hao looked deeply at Qin Chuan and said, "You've disturbed me here for 2 months. It's about time you leave." Hearing Song Hao's words, Qin Chuan immediately stood up and said respectfully to Song Hao, "I'll take my leave after resting for a while. Also, thank you for your guidance and care during this period of time. If you have any orders in the future, as long as it doesn't go against my principles, I'll definitely do it. Let's go." Song Hao didn't say anything else and slowly returned to the ruins where he had lived for many years. Qin Chuan bowed to Song Hao again, then quickly swam out of the Dragon Spirit Lake. Now that he had left the school for almost 3 months, it was time to go back and take a look. Chapter 210. Azure Ancient City, Black Moon Combat Academy's Student Council Encampment. Today was the day the Student Council would select the representatives to participate in the 6 Great Academies ranking competition. Everyone who had the qualifications to participate had already gathered in the Student Council's main hall at 9 in the morning. This time, apart from Lu Zi, Bai Yu, and Long Xiao, who had already joined the Student Council, there were also Blue Pool and Chen Chongqing. After a period of arduous cultivation, Blue Pool and Chen Chongqing had finally advanced to the Foundation Establishment stage and had the qualifications to participate in the new representative selection. They naturally weren't willing to miss the opportunity to participate in such a grand event as the 6 Great Academies ranking competition. Compared to Blue Pool and Chen Chongqing's excitement, Blue Pool, Bai Yu and Long Xiao were much more uneasy. They weren't uneasy because they were worried about the competition, but because Qin Chuan still hadn't appeared. Lu Zi sat in her chair and looked towards the hall's entrance from time to time, hoping that Qin Chuan would suddenly appear. However, every time someone came in, it wasn't the Qin Chuan she wanted to see. After being disappointed time and time again, Lu Zi couldn't help but feel despair. Maybe he really can't come today. No, he will come. Bai Yu looked at Lu Zi with a deep gaze and said calmly, "He promised to participate in the 6 Great Academies ranking competition with us. He won't break his promise." Looking at Bai Yu's resolute expression, Lu Zi couldn't help feeling complicated. Things had already come to this point, but Bai Yu still firmly believed that Qin Chuan would arrive in time. Was this her trust in Qin Chuan, or was she avoiding reality because she didn't want to face it? Alright, regardless of whether or not he'll arrive in time, we can't give up on our original goal. Long Xiao looked deeply at the many seniors present, and in the end, his gaze landed on the 5 people sitting in the center. These 5 people were all at the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment stage, and they were also the representatives that would participate in the official competition of the 6 Great Academies. If they wanted to participate in the official competition, they had to defeat one of these 5 people to replace them. Is everyone here? Zhu Feng, who was sitting on the main seat, looked at everyone present, and finally looked in the direction of the freshmen. When he found that Qin Chuan was not there, he could not help but frown slightly. Where's Qin Chuan? Hearing Zhu Feng take the initiative to ask about Qin Chuan, everyone present could not help but look at each other. No one could answer Zhu Feng's question. Qin Chuan, he hasn't arrived yet. At this moment, Lu Zi could only answer Zhu Feng's question helplessly. How can he be late on such an important day? Zhu Feng frowned again and said to Lu Zi, "Use the AI to contact him and tell him to come as soon as possible." Lu Zi laughed bitterly. If she could use her optical computer to contact Qin Chuan, then Qin Chuan would definitely not be late. At this moment, Zhu Feng also noticed that something was not right. He could not help but ask in a deep voice, "What's going on?" "Chairman, as far as I know, Qin Chuan left the Azure Ancient City 3 months ago. It is said that he went to the Talisman Array Master Association in the Elf City to cultivate in seclusion. Later on, we lost contact with him and his whereabouts are unknown. At this moment, Han Ting had no choice but to stand up and explain to Zhu Feng. At this moment, he could not help but blame Qin Chuan in his heart. No matter how much he neglected to eat and sleep during cultivation, he could not forget such an important matter like the selection. Hearing Han Ting's explanation, Zhu Feng could not help but reveal a stunned expression. Lost contact? Chairman, it's just a freshman. There's no need for us to continue waiting. Vice Chairman Wu Yu, who was sitting on Zhu Feng's left, said to Zhu Feng with some displeasure. This kind of person who has no concept of time and doesn't care about the selection doesn't need to participate in the selection. He will come. Bai Yu suddenly spoke. She firmly believed that Qin Chuan would definitely arrive. Previously, I informed you that we would gather here at 9 o'clock today. But it's already 9:10 and he still hasn't appeared. Wu Yu coldly snorted, we've lost contact for so long. Who knows if he died in the wilderness? As soon as Wu Yu's voice fell, he suddenly felt an extremely terrifying pressure rush over and completely shroud him. This sense of crisis in the face of death caused Wu Yu's face to instantly turn pale. Don't mess around. Zhu Feng first looked at Bai Yu, who was brimming with killing intent, with some surprise. Then, he moved to help Wu Yu block Bai Yu's killing intent. He didn't think that there would be a powerhouse like Bai Yu among the new students besides Qin Chuan. Bai Yu withdrew her killing intent. She took a deep look at Wu Yu and said indifferently, when I challenge you later, I will choose you to be my opponent. How dare you? Wu Yu flew into a rage out of humiliation. He was already ashamed of being suppressed by Bai Yu's killing intent. At this time, Bai Yu actually threatened to challenge him. This was simply not putting him in her eyes. Bai Yu's incomparably strong performance made everyone realize that at this time, it was best not to speak ill of Qin Chuan. Wu Yu was a good example. Although Wu Yu was the vice president and was in the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage, in fact, not many people thought that Wu Yu would be Bai Yu's opponent. After all, Bai Yu was recognized as the strongest among the freshmen. As for Qin Chuan, who was once the strongest, with the disappearance of these 3 months, he had long been forgotten by everyone. Time waits for no one. Since we have lost contact with Qin Chuan and cannot arrive in time, then, I announce, wait a minute. At this moment, a cold voice came from outside the hall. Then, an elegant figure wearing a moon-white Chong Sam slowly walked in. The person who came was none other than Ningya. Seeing Ningya's appearance, everyone was a little surprised. Why was she here? Zhu Feng, I'm representing Qin Chuan to participate in your student union's selection competition. Ningya smiled slightly and calmly stated the purpose of her visit. Hearing Ningya's words, Zhu Feng's cheeks fiercely twitched. He said somewhat helplessly, Teacher Ning, this is against the rules. With Ningya's strength, if she were to represent Qin Chuan in the selection, she alone would be able to kill everyone present in an instant. What's the point of selection? The others' expressions were also extremely strange. They all knew that Ningya never liked to follow the rules, but they did not expect Ningya to mess around like this. You misunderstood. I'm not representing Qin Chuan. I'm just helping Qin Chuan get a seat. Ningya looked at Zhu Feng with a subtle expression and said, Qin Chuan is on his way back to the school and will be here soon. Zhu Feng, this little bit of face, you should at least give me some face, right? Hearing Ningya's words, Lu Zi and the others could not help but be surprised. Qin Chuan was finally coming back? Of course I have to give face to Teacher Ning. Zhu Feng smiled helplessly. Unless he did not want to stay in the school peacefully until graduation, he absolutely could not give face to Ningya. Chapter 2:11. Then, I'll thank you on behalf of Qin Chuan. Ningya smiled, then turned and walked to the empty seat next to Bai Yu and sat down. Ningya had just sat down when Lu Zi asked impatiently, "Ms. Ning, where on earth has Qin Chuan been all this time? Why did he only come back now?" "I don't know." Ningya shook her head. Lu Zi was a little surprised and asked, perplexed, "Didn't you ask him properly? How am I supposed to ask without contacting him?" Ningya turned to glance at Lu Zi and said, "I was lying to them earlier." Hearing this, everyone couldn't help but feel a little stunned. Long Shao looked at Ningya with a subtle gaze and said softly, "Ms. Ning, you're saying that you didn't contact Qin Chuan and that the reason why you announced to the public that Qin Chuan was on his way back was just in case. You're worried that Qin Chuan would miss out on the opportunity to participate in the qualifier after he returns, right?" Ningya nodded honestly and sighed faintly, saying, "I don't have a choice either. I can't possibly just ignore that rascal. I only hope that he can rush back before the qualifier ends. If he still doesn't show up today, then I'll become the school's joke." This was already the limit of what Ningya could do. She couldn't possibly replace Qin Chuan to participate in the qualifier and fight with these juniors, right? Hearing this, Blue Pool and Chen Chongqing didn't know if they should feel relieved or disappointed. If Qin Chuan didn't come back, they would have a high chance of becoming the new students' representatives to participate in the qualifier. If Qin Chuan were to come back, to be honest, they didn't have the confidence to defeat Qin Chuan. Regarding this, Bai Yu's attitude was relatively calm. Before she saw Qin Chuan with her own eyes, she wouldn't believe anyone's words. At the same time, she still firmly believed that Qin Chuan would come back. "Alright, now that everyone is here, let me explain some of the rules of this selection." Feng Zhu stood in the middle of the conference room. He looked around at the crowd and said in a clear voice, "In this selection competition, we will select 5 official representatives and 4 freshman representatives. Among them, the new student representative could issue a challenge to the official representative to compete for the position of official representative. Once the new student representative won, he would automatically be promoted to an official representative, and the empty position of new student representative would be selected from the new students again. The minimum requirement for participating in the selection is the 13th level of the refinement stage. As for the rules of the challenge, it's relatively simple. It's a one-on-one battle. Other than weapons, you're not allowed to use anything else. Talisman pens and blank disc arrays are also considered weapons. Alright, that's all for the rules. Now, I'll announce the temporary list of official representatives and the temporary list of new representative. The 5 representatives are Wu Yu, Guan Hai, Li Siru, Lan Shuxin, and Han Ting. The 4 freshman representatives are Lu Zi, Bai Yu, Long Shao, and Qin Chuan. This is a temporary list that I've come up with based on everyone's past performance. Now, everyone present can challenge the 9 people on the list. The winner will replace the loser. You have 1 minute to consider. First, we'll start with the official representative challenge. As Feng Zhu's voice fell, the originally quiet scene suddenly became noisy. The 5 official representatives on the temporary list were all in the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage. They were also the best among the sophomores. Many sophomores present did not have the confidence to defeat these 5 people and replace them. However, in the face of such a grand event as the 6 Great Academies ranking competition, they were not willing to give up like this. "Chairman, I want to challenge Li Siru." At this time, a tall figure suddenly stood up. His name was Zhou Yang. He was also in the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage, but he broke through not long ago. Compared with Li Siru, his combat effectiveness was definitely weaker, but the gap was limited. If they really fought, he might not necessarily lose to Li Siru. Feng Zhu glanced at Zhou Yang with appreciation, smiled and said, "Let's go to the martial arts practice field in the back hall." The martial arts practice field was a small island. It was not big, but it was enough for 2 people to fight. After coming to the island, Feng Zhu and the others stood at the edge, while Zhou Yang and Li Siru came to the center of the island, ready to fight. Zhou Yang faced Li Siru, bowed slightly, and said, "Siru, please enlighten me." Li Siru also bowed back and said seriously, "I won't be merciful." Following Feng Zhu's whistle, Zhou Yang and Li Siru moved at almost the same time. Their fists collided, and suddenly there was a roar. The two figures moved around the island, and in just a few breaths of time, they had already exchanged dozens of blows. Looking at Zhou Yang and Li Siru, Feng Zhu pursed his lips and asked Ningya, "Teacher Ning, what do you think of their performance?" "They're about the same." Ningya faintly said to Feng Zhu, "If the two of them were to represent our Black Moon Combat Academy in the 6 Great Academies selection, I estimate that they would lose miserably." Feng Zhu helplessly smiled bitterly. He had already tried his best to make himself look better, but he never thought that Ningya's evaluation of the two of them would be so low. Bang! After another collision, Zhou Yang and Li Siru made the decision to pull apart at the same time. Their figures were still in the air, but they had already taken out their respective talisman brushes and array discs, and began to inscribe a symbol array. They actually wanted to end this match with a symbol array duel. Zhou Yang's speed at inscribing symbol arrays was very fast, but Li Siru was much more steady. At this moment, the island was calm, but anyone could feel that a storm was approaching. "Scarlet Flame Symbol Array, activate!" Zhou Yang angrily shouted, and suddenly activated the Scarlet Flame Symbol Array that had already been inscribed. A surge of flame surged out of the array disc and rushed towards Li Siru. At the same time, Li Siru had also completed the final inscription. She tenderly shouted, "Green Leaf Symbol Array, activate!" As Li Siru activated the array disc, green leaves suddenly appeared in front of her. These leaves spun faster and faster, and like lightning, they flew towards Zhou Yang. Although Zhou Yang had already launched his attack, the speed of the leaves' rotation was much faster than the flames. However, because they had to go around the raging flames, the two speeds were barely equal. At this moment, it all depended on whether Zhou Yang or Li Siru would be able to withstand the other's attack first. After activating the green leaf talisman array, Li Siru did not stop and immediately began to inscribe a new talisman array. This time, it was the simplest level 1 spirit water talisman array. It was almost completed in an instant. She activated the spirit water talisman array. Immediately, a clear stream of water appeared on the array disc and rushed towards the raging flames. Chapter 212. Although the water talisman formation was weak, it successfully helped Li Siru resist the raging flames for a moment, which bought her precious time to take action. In this short moment, Li Siru retreated quickly. At the same time, she began to inscribe a new talisman formation. However, at this moment, Zhou Yang's voice of admitting defeat came from not far away. "I admit defeat." Compared with Li Siru, who was fully prepared, Zhou Yang's preparation was much worse. Facing the attack of the green leaf talisman formation, Zhou Yang could only retreat quickly. However, the attack speed of the green leaf talisman formation was too fast for Zhou Yang to dodge completely. After being injured consecutively, he knew that he had no hope of winning this battle, so he simply admitted defeat. If this battle continued, it would only aggravate his injuries and would not have any impact on the situation. After Zhou Yang admitted defeat, Li Siru withdrew the green leaf talisman formation and smiled at Zhou Yang, who was a little embarrassed in the distance. "You let me win." "Thank you." Zhou Yang smiled at Li Siru. This battle made him realize the gap between him and Li Siru. It was a small gain. After seeing the end of the battle, Zhu Feng announced loudly, "This battle, Li Siru wins. If anyone else wants to challenge, you can stand up now, but you can't choose Li Siru as your opponent for the time being." As Zhu Feng's voice fell, soon another challenger stood up. He chose Guan Hai as his opponent. In this battle, the two didn't use talisman formations, but just attacked each other. After thousands of fierce collisions, Guan Hai won the final victory. Whether it was Guan Hai or Li Siru, they were both the weakest people on the temporary list, but both of their performances were extremely outstanding. From this, it could be seen that Zhu Feng had carefully considered the selection of candidate. Now, who else wants to challenge? Zhu Feng looked around and said, "If you sophomores are ready to give up the challenge, then the right to challenge will fall into the hands of the freshmen." Once they gave up, it was equal to completely losing the qualification to participate in the 6 Great Academies ranking competition. There was no room for regret. Zhu Feng looked at the crowd calmly. After finding that no one was willing to continue the challenge, he turned his eyes to the freshmen. Among the freshmen, who wants to challenge the official representative? Li Siru can now accept the challenge. As soon as Zhu Feng spoke, Bai Yu slowly stepped forward and said indifferently, "I want to challenge Wu Yu." Although Bai Yu had said that she wanted to challenge Wu Yu before, when this matter really happened, it made many second-year students feel ashamed. Even a first-year junior who had just entered the foundation establishment stage had the courage to challenge Wu Yu, the strongest official representative, but they didn't dare to challenge him because of various concerns. It was really too embarrassing. No matter what others thought, Wu Yu was furious. This was the first time in his life that he had been humiliated in public. Feng Zhu glanced at the gloomy Wu Yu and then looked at Bai Yu. Wu Yu is the vice president of the student union. He is naturally very strong. Are you sure you want to challenge him? Yes. Bai Yu's reply was straightforward and without any hesitation. Very good. Wu Yu walked out with a cold smile and gloomily looked at Bai Yu. I will make you pay for your arrogance. Hearing this, Zhu Feng frowned slightly and said, Wu Yu, watch your behavior. I know. Wu Yu agreed, but in his heart, he couldn't wait to ruthlessly trample Bai Yu to the ground. After confirming the matter of the challenge, Wu Yu and Bai Yu walked towards the center of the island. Lu Zi looked at Bai Yu's seemingly delicate back and asked the people around her, Have you seen Bai Yu fight recently? Long Xiao shook her head and said, The last time I fought with Bai Yu was when I was in the qi refining stage. Ever since I advanced to the foundation establishment stage, I wanted to spar with her several times, but I was rejected. Although she hadn't fought with Bai Yu for a long time, Long Xiao was certain that Bai Yu was stronger than her. Even Qin Chuan might not be Bai Yu's opponent. Let's wait and see. Ningya looked at Bai Yu with a subtle expression and said to everyone, She will bring us some surprises. In the center of the island, Wu Yu looked at Bai Yu with a malicious expression and sneered. Bitch, do you like Qin Chuan a lot? In the face of Wu Yu's question, Bai Yu was expressionless and had no intention of answering. Even if you don't say it, I can tell that your feelings for him aren't ordinary. Unfortunately, that guy died somewhere. You didn't even have the chance to collect his corpse. Wu Yu sneered. You should go find that guy's clothes and set up a cenotaph for him. Toot toot toot. Following a whistle, Wu Yu immediately assumed an attacking posture. However, when he was about to charge at Bai Yu, the blood in his body suddenly roiled violently like a pot of boiling water, as if it was about to burst his body. Before Wu Yu could figure out what was going on, Bai Yu's figure was already in front of him. Her gaze was cold and her tone was indifferent. You shouldn't have cursed him a second time. Bang! Bai Yu's white fist fiercely smashed into Wu Yu's face, knocking him to the ground without any defense. Then she punched again, hitting the same spot again, brutally nailing Wu Yu's head into the ground like a nail. Bang! 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 Bai Yu didn't stop and punched again and again. With each punch, Wu Yu's head was a little deeper into the ground. When the third punch landed, only Wu Yu's calves were left outside of the ground. The rest of his body was completely buried in the gravel and soil by Bai Yu. In the distance, everyone was dumbstruck as they watched this scene, and they didn't dare believe their eyes. They'd originally thought that a brilliant battle would erupt between Wu Yu and Bai Yu, yet they'd never imagined that the outcome would be a one-sided slaughter. Lu Zi and the others expected Bai Yu to defeat Wu Yu, but they never thought that Bai Yu would defeat Wu Yu in such a strange way. Wu Yu's performance in front of Bai Yu didn't look like a cultivator in the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage. He was worse than a pig. Is this the vice president? It's really funny. Ningya looked at Zhu Feng with a playful look. Was this vice president chosen by you? Zhu Feng's cheeks twitched when he heard this. He really didn't expect Bai Yu to be so cruel. He even reminded Wu Yu to be careful. This year's freshmen were really fierce. They were simply inhuman. Chapter 213. Stop fighting. I announce that Bai Yu is the winner. Seeing that Bai Yu was going to continue, Zhu Feng hurriedly stood out to announce the end of the battle. He was really afraid that Bai Yu would beat Wu Yu to death with a few more punches. Hearing Zhu Feng's words, Bai Yu slowly withdrew her fist and glanced at Wu Yu, who was buried in the ground and not moving at all. Then, she turned around and slowly walked towards the crowd. Looking at the expressionless Bai Yu, the crowd's expressions were very interesting. They really didn't understand why Wu Yu was buried by Bai Yu without any resistance. It was also because of this that Bai Yu's terror and power were set off even more. Qin Chuan is really the Wu family's nemesis. Back then, because he provoked Qin Chuan, not only was Wu Jie, the most outstanding member of the Wu family's younger generation, expelled from school, but he was also sent away by the Wu family. He might not have the chance to come back in this lifetime. As for Wu Yu, the pillar of the Wu family's younger generation, he was humiliated in public just because he said something bad about Qin Chuan. He was probably going to live under Bai Yu's shadow for the rest of his life and would never dare to say anything bad about Qin Chuan again. Thinking about it now, Blue Pool felt that it was really a very wise decision to take the initiative to express goodwill to Qin Chuan. Otherwise, he might be the one buried in the ground now. Lu Zi, help me recall. Did I say anything bad about Qin Chuan during this period? Long Xiao looked at Bai Yu's figure with a strange gaze and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. I swear, I will never say anything bad about Qin Chuan again. Lu Zi glanced at Long Xiao with a subtle gaze and then looked at Bai Yu. Her feelings were extremely complicated. She really didn't know whether she should feel happy or unhappy about Bai Yu's protection of Qin Chuan. Congratulations, Bai Yu. Zhu Feng looked at Bai Yu with a complicated expression and said, You defeated Wu Yu and will replace him as one of the representatives. Bai Yu nodded at Zhu Feng and didn't say anything. She looked very calm. As for Wu Yu, he had already been pulled out of the ground and sent for treatment. Now, among the new students, who else wants to challenge the official representatives? Feng Zhu looked at the others. He felt that Bai Yu's challenge to Wu Yu was just the beginning. This year's freshman should bring him a big surprise. Chairman, I want to challenge Li Siru. I want to challenge Li Siru. Almost at the same time, Lu Zi and Long Xiao stepped forward, wanting to challenge Li Siru. Lu Zi and Long Xiao looked at each other, and then Long Xiao took a step back and smiled. Then I'll let you have the weaker one. In the face of Long Xiao's concession, Lu Zi nodded gently and said sincerely, Thank you. Hearing the conversation between Lu Zi and Long Xiao, everyone's expression was extremely strange. Since when did cultivators in the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage become weak? Although Li Siru, who was the one being challenged, felt a little uncomfortable in her heart and didn't like the feeling of being looked down upon, her attitude towards LVZ was extremely cautious. Wu Yu's example was right in front of her eyes, and she didn't want to fail in front of a freshman. However, what Li Siru didn't expect was that even though she was fully prepared, she still failed. The moment Zhu Feng whistled, Lu Zi suddenly retreated and pulled away from Li Siru. She held a talisman pen and quickly inscribed a flying cloud talisman formation in the air, trapping Li Siru, who didn't have time to react, in the illusion formation. Following that, Lu Zi continued to inscribe a shadow talisman formation. One shadow talisman formation split into 10 and attacked Li Siru, who was trapped in the flying cloud talisman formation from different directions. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. From the beginning of the battle to when Lu Zi completely trapped Li Siru, only 2 breaths of time had passed. It wasn't that Li Siru's reaction wasn't fast enough, but Lu Zi's attack speed was just too fast. As expected of a 1 in 10,000 illusion array masters. As long as Lu Zi's attack speed is fast enough, I believe that even a late-stage Foundation establishment cultivator might not have the chance to attack her. Ningya looked at Lu Zi with admiration. As the only illusion array master in the Black Moon Combat Academy, Lu Zi's performance could be said to be perfect. A powerful illusion array master's attack power might not be the strongest, but their attack speed is definitely the fastest. Zhu Feng also sighed with emotion. He found that the juniors of this year were all monsters. They even had an illusion array master that was 1 in a million. At this time, Li Siru had fallen into the flying cloud talisman formation and could only passively defend. As long as Lu Zi slowly wore her down, Li Siru would definitely lose. However, Lu Zi didn't slowly wear Li Siru out like Zhu Feng had expected. Instead, she boldly mixed her real body into the shadow talisman and launched a frontal attack on Li Siru. After Li Siru consecutively and easily defeated dozens of shadow clones, her mood was already extremely irritable. Because from her point of view, every LVZ was like the real body, but every LVZ was just a shadow clone that would shatter with a touch. This made it very difficult for Li Siru to continue concentrating on dealing with these shadow clones that had no lethality. Instead, she began to concentrate on breaking the flying cloud talisman formation. As long as the flying cloud talisman formation was broken, she would definitely not give LVZ the chance to trap her again. At this time, Lu Zi's figure suddenly appeared in front of Li Siru and openly launched an attack. Seeing this, Li Siru didn't think that the seemingly ordinary and bold figure in front of her would be Lu Zi's real body. She waved her hand as usual. She thought that the figure would dissipate like the previous fake ones, but unexpectedly, she felt a real collision. Li Siru was stunned for a moment and her expression changed drastically. Just as she was about to defend herself, LVZ took advantage of the situation and arrived in front of her. That seemingly delicate fist had already stopped right in front of her face. "You lost, senior sister." The flying cloud talisman formation dissipated, and everyone finally saw the figures of Li Siru. The former slightly raised the corner of her mouth and looked happy, while the latter was somewhat dispirited. Needless to say, everyone knew that the final winner must be Lu Zi. Seeing this, Zhu Feng sighed helplessly and said, "I announce that the winner of this challenge is Lu Zi." Hearing Zhu Feng's words, everyone's expression couldn't help but become a little subtle. If there was only one person among the freshmen who could defeat them seniors, then it would be excusable. But after the second person appeared, everything became a little different. Looking at Long Xiao, who was eager to try, everyone couldn't help but have a somewhat unreal feeling in their hearts. Perhaps the third person would appear soon. Chapter 214. No matter if it was by Yu or Lu Zi, when they were in the early stage of Foundation establishment, they both ended the battle very quickly. This was something that no one had expected. At the same time, this also proved one thing. This year's freshmen were really strong. Zhu Feng glanced at the people standing beside him and said to the freshman team, "Now, only Guan Hai, Lan Xuxin and Han Ting can accept the challenge. If you want to join the official representatives, then you can make your move." Following Zhu Feng's words, Long Xiao stepped forward as expected and said lightly, "I want to challenge Senior Guan Hai." Hearing that Long Xiao wanted to challenge Guan Hai, Lan Xuxin and Han Ting's expressions couldn't help but change slightly. In terms of strength, they were both weaker than Guan Hai. They thought that Long Xiao would choose one of them to challenge, but they didn't expect that she would choose Guan Hai in the end. Junior sister, why do you want to challenge me? Guan Hai was a little confused. Was the strength he showed just now not strong enough? Long Xiao raised her chin proudly and said lightly, By you defeated Wu Yu. The strongest person left should be you, so of course I want to challenge you. Hearing Long Xiao's explanation, everyone instantly understood. The reason why Long Xiao challenged Guan Hai had nothing to do with Guan Hai's strength. It was because Bai Yu had just defeated Wu Yu, who was the strongest among the official representatives. She was competing with Bai Yu. Guan Hai smiled bitterly. He really didn't expect that he would be chosen by Long Xiao for this reason. He really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although the freshman had shown great strength before, Guan Hai didn't think that Long Xiao could defeat him. He would never make the same mistake that Wu Yu and Li Siru had made. In the center of the island, Guan Hai looked at Long Xiao calmly and said, Junior sister, how about we change the way we compete? Your Long family has always been famous for its talisman arrays, so I want to compete with you in this field. If you can beat me, then I will admit defeat. How about it? Long Xiao raised her eyebrows slightly and said, That's not fair to you. Guan Hai looked at Long Xiao with astonishment. You are really unexpectedly confident. Since senior brother has proposed such a method of sparring, I naturally won't reject it. However, senior brother, please enlighten me on how we should spar. It's simple. You and I are both rank 2 battle formation masters. We will use our battle formations to fight against each other. Whoever can't hold on first will lose. How about it? All right. Long Xiao agreed immediately. She liked this way of sparring. Beep beep beep. As Zhu Feng blew the whistle, Guan Hai immediately took out his talisman brush and began to inscribe a talisman array in the air. In the blink of an eye, the talisman array was half completed. Just as Guan Hai was concentrating on inscribing the remaining half of the glyph array, he suddenly felt that the surrounding air had become somewhat scorching. Subconsciously, he raised his eyes to look around and was shocked to find that he had unknowingly been surrounded by raging flames. Senior, if I'm not wrong, you should be inscribing the quicksand battle formation of the earth attribute. This battle formation is mainly used to restrain the opponent and has no defensive effect. So, if I attacked you just now, you would probably be a dead man. Long Xiao looked at Guan Hai calmly. The flames around her danced in the wind like a proud phoenix. How did you? Guan Hai looked at Long Xiao in shock. He knew that his speed of inscribing talisman arrays was extremely fast, but Long Xiao was even faster than him by 3 times. Senior brother, void formation is naturally faster than you using your talisman brush. Long Xiao smiled and explained to Guan Hai. She was no longer the Long Xiao who had just entered the school. She had reached the realm of void formation, using her mental strength as a talisman brush on the day she advanced to foundation establishment. I lost. Guan Hai had no choice but to disperse more than half of the glyph array and simply chose to admit defeat. Long Xiao dispersed the sea of flames and bowed slightly towards Guan Hai. Then, she walked towards the crowd. So far, Long Xiao had become the 3rd freshman to defeat the official representative. Seeing this scene, everyone's feelings were extremely complicated. These 3 freshmen really won cleanly and cleanly, each more terrifying than the other. I really don't know where Qinchuan is now. You must know that these 3 terrifying fellows were all suppressed by Qinchuan back then. Han Ting lamented to Lan Shuxin, who was standing beside him. It's a pity that Qinchuan doesn't seem to be able to come today. Hearing Han Ting mention Qinchuan, Lan Shuxin couldn't help but reveal a subtle expression. They had already stayed in this small world for so long, but Qinchuan still didn't come. Could it be that Ningya was just making an excuse when she said that Qinchuan would be here very soon? Among the freshmen, who else wants to challenge the remaining 2 official representatives? Zhu Feng looked at Blue Pool and Chen Changxing in the freshman team and couldn't help but frown as he looked towards Ningya. Why wasn't Qin Chuan here yet? Let me do it. I want to challenge Senior Lan Shuxin. Just then, Chen Chongqing suddenly stood out and issued a challenge to Lan Shuxin. Everyone had some understanding of Chen Chongqing. He had just advanced to the foundation establishment stage last month and had just stabilized his realm. There was still a huge gap between him and Lan Shuxin, who had long broken through to the mid-stage foundation establishment stage. It wasn't a wise decision for Chen Chongqing to challenge Lan Shuxin now. If you choose Han Ting, you still have a chance of winning. If you choose me, you'll definitely lose. Lan Shuxin stood out and took a deep look at Chen Chongqing, as if hoping that Chen Chongqing would change his mind. Hearing this, Chen Chongqing laughed bitterly. He did want to quietly be the freshman representative and follow everyone to see the world. However, Ningya had secretly sent him a voice transmission, asking him to issue a challenge to stall for time. He had no choice but to do it even if he didn't want to. Senior, please enlighten me. Chen Chongqing bowed towards Lan Shuxin, expressing his attitude. Since that's the case, let's do it. Lan Shuxin didn't say anything else and turned to walk towards the center of the island. However, Chen Chongqing walked very slowly, stopping after taking 2 steps. It was as if there was some danger in the center of the island and he just wasn't willing to go near it. Chen Chongqing, what are you doing? Zhu Feng felt a headache coming on. Isn't it too obvious that you're stalling for time? Cough cough, I accidentally sprained my ankle some time ago, so it's a little inconvenient for me to walk. Please forgive me. Chen Chongqing casually came up with an excuse, then slowly increased his speed and walked up to Lan Shuxin. Seeing that Lan Shuxin and Chen Chongqing were already in position, Zhu Feng blew the whistle. Toot toot toot. Chapter 215. Wait! Chen Chongqing suddenly raised his hand and signaled for the match to be paused. Zhu Feng frowned slightly and asked, "What's the problem?" "Chairman, I suddenly have a stomachache. Can I go to the toilet first?" "I'll be quick." Chen Chongqing looked constipated. It seemed that he really had a stomachache. Zhu Feng was speechless. He rolled his eyes and said, "Leaving the arena means giving up the challenge. Then I'll hold on for a while longer." Chen Chongqing was helpless. If he could go to the toilet and squat for half an hour, it would be more comfortable than standing here and forcefully stalling for time. "Junior, can we start?" Lan Shuxin looked at Chen Chongqing with a subtle gaze. As foundation establishment cultivators, unless they ate poison, it was impossible for them to have a stomachache. Obviously, Chen Chongqing was looking for an excuse to stall for time. This also made Lan Shuxin even more certain that Ningya might not have contacted Qin Chuan. Yes. Chen Chongqing nodded helplessly. Just as he was about to make a move, Lan Shuxin suddenly raised her eyebrows and said to Chen Chongqing, "Junior, I've thought about it carefully. You have a stomachache and my realm is higher than yours. If I fight with you in this situation, it'll be an unfair victory. Coincidentally, I've learned some medical skills before. Why don't you let me check your body's condition? What do you think?" Chen Chongqing was a little confused. "Check my body's condition? Senior sister, are you serious?" Chen Chongqing was not the only one who was confused. When the spectators heard Lan Shuxin's words, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Are these two fooling around? Come, let me check your pulse. Lan Shuxin reached out to grab Chen Chongqing's wrist as she spoke. Chen Chongqing hesitated but chose not to resist. Just like that, Lan Shuxin grabbed Chen Chongqing's wrist and began to check his pulse seriously. This took half an hour. Do these two really think that I'm blind? Zhu Feng's mouth twitched fiercely. He glanced helplessly at Ningya, who was standing aside calmly. He didn't need to guess to know that Ningya must be behind Lan Shuxin's sudden action of stalling for time. Although Ningya was breaking the rules of the qualifier, Feng Zhu wasn't angry. He didn't want Qinchuan to miss the qualifier of the 6 great academies. He wanted to delay as long as possible. Thus, the entire selection competition fell into a strange silence of staring at each other. "Oh, I made a mistake." Lan Shuxin suddenly slapped her forehead and said helplessly, "I was wondering why I couldn't find anything after such a long time. As the saying goes, the man is on the left and the woman is on the right. I checked the pulse of your right hand just now. This isn't accurate. Now, let's change to your left hand and do it again." Chun Chongxing, everyone. According to the rules, the duration of a match cannot exceed 2 hours. Just as everyone was feeling bored to death, Wu Yu's figure suddenly appeared on the small island. By now, the injuries on his body had all been healed, and he had recovered. However, the grief and fury in his heart still hadn't been vented. He wanted to destroy Ningya's plan of stalling for time for Qinchuan and vent the anger in his heart. Right now, Lan Shuxin and Chun Chongxing had already stalled for about an hour. At most, they could stall for another hour. Even if Blue Pool went up later, they would only be able to stall for another 2 hours. He didn't believe that Qinchuan, who had been missing for so long, would rush back at this time by coincidence. Looking at the ferocious-looking Wu Yu, everyone had different expressions on their faces. All of them could tell that Lan Shuxin and Chun Chongxing were stalling for time. It was just that no one brought it up. Now that Wu Yu mentioned the rules of the qualifier in front of everyone, he clearly didn't want Lan Shuxin and Chun Chongxing to continue stalling for time. Bai Yu gazed at Wu Yu with a cold gaze and asked Feng Zhu, "Chairman, can I challenge him again?" Hearing Bai Yu's words, Feng Zhu's expression couldn't help but become a little interesting. "Challenge Wu Yu again? You're trying to kill Wu Yu completely." Wu Yu's expression was also very interesting. He really didn't expect Bai Yu to want to challenge him again. He had already lost all his face earlier. If she were to challenge him again, he might even lose his life. Thankfully, the rules didn't allow for a second challenge to the same person. He was safe. "Why? Are you angry from embarrassment?" Wu Yu sneered and said to Bai Yu with great hatred, "I'm going to make your plan fail. Qinchuan can forget about taking part in the 6 schools qualifier." This time, Wu Yu ultimately didn't dare to say that Qinchuan was dead. That feeling of terror, of having all the blood in his body churning uncontrollably, was still vivid in his mind. However, when he thought about how he could make Qinchuan unable to take part in the 6 schools qualifier and drive Bai Yu crazy, his mood became much better. The fear he had for Bai Yu also lessened. At most, he would avoid Bai Yu in school in the future. This time, he was determined to make Bai Yu suffer and sullen within the rules. "Forget it." At this moment, Ningya suddenly spoke. She looked at Feng Zhu helplessly and said, "As a teacher, I've already tried my best." Hearing Ningya's words, Feng Zhu could only sigh. Qinchuan still hadn't shown up, so they couldn't keep delaying the qualifier. Since Ningya had already decided to give up, Chun Chongxing and Lan Shuxin stopped acting. Chun Chongxing simply chose to admit defeat. As for the remaining Blue Pool, he had a clear understanding of his own strength and didn't choose to challenge again. Thus, the challenges between the freshmen and the official representatives finally came to an end. Then, I hereby announce that the official representatives of our Black Moon Combat Academy will be Han Ting, Lan Shuxin, Bai Yu, Long Xiao, and Lu Zi. Captain Han Ting. If you have any objections, you can raise them now. Although Han Ting's strength wasn't the strongest, he was very experienced in leading a team. No one had any objections to Han Ting being the captain. Seeing that no one raised any objections, Feng Zhu continued, "As for the freshman representatives, other than Blue Pool and Chun Chongxing, there are also Yang Yu and Zhao Feihong among the official freshmen. Both of them are at the peak of the 13th Qi refining stage. If you don't have any objections, then I'll announce, Buzz." At this moment, the gate to the small world suddenly opened again, and a tall figure slowly landed on the island. Everyone was stunned when they saw the figure that suddenly appeared. Facing the dozens of gazes, the newcomer couldn't help but scratch his head guiltily. He weakly asked, am I late?" Chapter 216. The figure that suddenly appeared on the island was none other than Qin, who had been missing for more than 2 months. No one expected that Qin would appear before Zhu Feng was about to decide on the final candidate. Qin. The moment she saw Qin's figure, Lu Zi could not hold back her excitement and rushed into Qin's arms. What came to her nose was the familiar and greedy smell, which made her feel extremely at ease. Qin looked at Lu Zi, who was hugging him tightly, and grinned. "You haven't seen me for so long. You don't have to be so excited, do you? You still have the nerve to say that?" Long Xiao rolled her eyes at Qin and said, "We were worried sick about you. It's fine that you went missing, but you didn't even give us a message. Isn't that a bit too much?" "Sorry, I'm really sorry. I was obsessed with cultivation and neglected this aspect. Ouch." Qin was apologizing to Long Xiao when his head was suddenly hit heavily. Then, a huge force forced him to the ground. Ningya, who had appeared behind Qin, took off Qin's sneakers very elegantly, and then slapped Qin's buttocks, making a crisp sound. "You're quite capable, kid. Have you been living a good life outside for the past few months? What? Now you know to come back? Why don't you just die outside? Do you think that you're invincible after advancing to the foundation establishment stage? Let me tell you, your teacher is in the peak gold core stage. I can still beat you now. What are you shouting for? Shut up and take the beating obediently." Everyone stood aside and stared blankly at Ningya, who was beating Qin to the ground. They didn't know how much strength Ningya used, but she actually beat Qin, who was in the foundation establishment stage, until his nose was bruised and his face was swollen. He was crying for his father and mother. Looking at Qin's miserable appearance, everyone couldn't help but shudder. The consequences of angering Ningya were too terrifying. After venting her anger on Qin, Ningya casually threw the completely ruined sports shoes on the ground. She clapped her hands and kicked Qin's butt, saying, "Since you missed the selection of the official representative, then just be a freshman representative. It's good to follow them to see the world." "I understand," Qin agreed, gritting his teeth as he got up from the ground. The expression on his face was quite bitter. He really didn't expect that the preliminaries would be held today, and he actually missed the selection of the official representative. He could only participate in the qualifiers of the 6 great academies as a freshman representative. Looking at Qin's miserable appearance, Zhu Feng couldn't help laughing. This guy was asking for a beating. He should be beaten hard. According to the rules, Qin missed the selection of the official representative, but the selection of the freshman representative hasn't ended yet, so let Qin take a place. Zhu Feng looked around at everyone, and focused on Wu Yu, who was gnashing his teeth, asking, "Who has an objection?" Zhu Feng's decision was completely within the scope of the rules, and Qin's aura fluctuation obviously belonged to a cultivator in the foundation establishment stage. In the case that there were no cultivators in the foundation establishment stage among the official students, it was reasonable to let Qin directly become the freshman representative. No matter how unhappy Wu Yu was, he couldn't say that Zhu Feng did anything wrong. "I want to give my place to Qin." At this moment, Bai Yu suddenly spoke. She actually wanted to directly transfer her place as the official representative to Qin. This is against the rules. Without waiting for Zhu Feng to speak, Wu Yu immediately jumped out. If the place can be transferred casually, then what's the point of holding this preliminaries? Hearing Wu Yu's words, Bai Yu couldn't help but frown and look at him. The more she looked at Wu Yu, the more annoyed she felt. Yes, the rules are the rules. Qin missed the selection, so he can't blame others. Zhu Feng pursed his lips and said, "Don't mention this kind of thing again." At this point, the selection of the representatives of the 6 great academies was settled. Qin Chuan, who was late, could only participate as the freshman representative. On the way out of the student union, Chen Chongqing walked beside Qin Chuan with a smile and told Qin Chuan in detail what happened during the preliminaries. When Qin Chuan heard Chen Chongqing's narration, he was quite surprised. He really didn't expect so many things to happen during the preliminaries. "I'm really sorry for making everyone worry about me," Qin Chuan said to everyone very apologetically. "I've been engrossed in cultivation during this period of time and wasn't able to contact you in time. It's my fault." "Forget it, you're back. That's better than anything else." Long Xiao waved her hand and said, "Besides, I'm not the one who's worried about you the most." After saying this, Long Xiao's eyes couldn't help but wander between Lu Zi and Bai Yu. No matter how slow Long Xiao was when it came to matters of the heart, she could see that Lu Zi and Bai Yu's feelings for Qin Chuan were not ordinary. After seeing Qin Chuan appear, one of them immediately threw herself into Qin Chuan's arms regardless of anything, expressing her concern and worry for Qin Chuan without any scruples. And the other, before Qin Chuan appeared, she had been trying her best to protect Qin Chuan and didn't allow anyone to say a single bad word about him. And after Qin Chuan appeared, she didn't hesitate to give her official representative position to Qin Chuan. For Qin Chuan to be able to gain the favor of these 2 girls, he must have cultivated good fortune for 3 lifetimes. "That's right. As your teacher, I'm the one who's worried about you the most." Ningya looked at Qin Chuan's swollen face and sighed faintly, saying, "It's a pity that I didn't control my strength just now and ended up in this state. You won't blame me, your teacher, right?" Qin Chuan grinned and said, I wouldn't dare to. "You don't dare to, or you don't blame me." Cough cough, "I don't blame you, I really don't blame you." What a joke. If he dared to blame Ningya, he might just be buried in a hole tonight. Seeing how cowardly Qin Chuan was when facing Ningya, everyone couldn't help but laugh. Just then, Chen Chongqing secretly ran over to Blue Pool's side, who appeared slightly lonely. Seeing Chen Chongqing come over, Blue Pool couldn't help raising his brows slightly. Why was this guy so mysterious? "Brother, let me ask you something." Chen Chongqing very naturally reached out and hooked his arm around Blue Pool's shoulder, saying with a grin, You should have Senior Lan Shuxin's contact number, right? How about you give it to me?" Hearing this, Blue Pool's face instantly darkened and he said, "That's my biological elder sister. What do you want?" Chen Chongqing glanced at Blue Pool a little bashfully, then coughed softly and said, "Cough cough, nothing much. It's just that I want to apply to be your brother-in-law." Chapter 217. After returning to school, everyone went back to their respective residences. Qin Chuan was called by Ningya to her place. Qin Chuan obediently followed Ningya back to her apartment. After entering the door, Ningya sat on the sofa and looked at Qin Chuan, who was standing in front of her obediently, and asked, "You just advanced to the foundation establishment stage a few days ago, right?" Qin Chuan nodded and said, "Just yesterday." After advancing to the foundation establishment stage, Qin Chuan wandered around outside for a while to experience the power of the foundation establishment stage. If he had known that there would be such an important selection today, he would have rushed back as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the selection had already been settled, and it was too late for him to say anything. "What do you want me to say to you?" Ningya looked at Qin Chuan helplessly. "Why is your self-esteem so strong? If you don't advance to the foundation establishment stage, are you not going to contact us for the rest of your life?" Hearing Ningya's words, Qin Chuan was slightly stunned, and then he understood. Ningya thought that he had lost contact because he had not advanced to the foundation establishment stage and was embarrassed to contact the people around him. However, in fact, He did not contact the others because he was in the Dragon Spirit Lake, which was really inconvenient. Looking at the worried and helpless expression on Ningya's face, Qin Chuan pursed his lips slightly and whispered, "I'm sorry, teacher. I was wrong. It's good that you can come back, but don't be so willful in the future." Ningya looked Qin Chuan up and down and said, "Do you feel better now?" "Yes, I do feel better." Qin Chuan grinned. He had just advanced to the foundation establishment stage, and his realm was not stable yet. In addition, he encountered a different situation when he advanced, so his body had been very uncomfortable. When Qin Chuan was beaten up by Ningya, he clearly felt that the abnormality in his body was fading rapidly as Ningya's fists fell. When Ningya stopped beating him, the abnormality in his body had completely disappeared. Obviously, Ningya beat him up because she was really angry. On the other hand, she saw the abnormality in his body and helped him adjust his body so that he could stabilize his realm as soon as possible. It could be said that she took great pains. I often tell myself not to pry into your secrets out of curiosity, but sometimes I really can't help but want to ask you, what's going on with you? Ningya was really curious. When Qin Chuan was in the Qi refining stage, his aura in the perfection stage was much stronger than that of ordinary people. Now that he had advanced to the foundation establishment stage, from the fluctuations of his aura, if Qin Chuan was in the late stage of the foundation establishment stage, she would feel that it was true. However, Qin Chuan had just entered the foundation establishment stage. Even though Ningya was experienced and knowledgeable, she had never encountered such a situation. In the face of Ningya's question, Qin Chuan smiled but did not answer. Seeing that Qin Chuan did not speak, Ningya understood. She took out a chip and handed it to Qin Chuan, saying, "I'm too lazy to ask you. Just don't make trouble. There are 48 types of runes recorded in this chip. Among them, there are a total of 8 types of Earth-level runes. Take it back and study it well." Hearing Ningya's words, Qin Chuan's eyes couldn't help but light up. He reached out to take the chip, but Ningya suddenly withdrew her hand, causing Qin Chuan to grab empty air. "As your teacher, I have a question to ask you, and you must answer it. 3 years later, if Lu Zi and Bai Yu both stay by your side, who will you choose?" During this period of time, Ningya understood that whether it was Lu Zi or Bai Yu, they were especially concerned about Qin Chuan. Obviously, they had extraordinary feelings for Qin Chuan. On the other hand, whether it was Bai Yu or Lu Zi, Qin Chuan could be said to treat them equally. He had the potential to be a scumbag. She really wanted to know what kind of girl Qin Chuan liked. Qin Chuan looked at the curious expression on Ningya's face and grinned, saying, "I choose you, teacher. Brilliant and great." Scram! As early as this year, LVZ had already moved out of the dormitory at LV Xiangyang's request. She lived in LV Xiangyang's apartment and received LV Xiangyang's guidance every day. As a result, LVZ's cultivation improved by leaps and bounds, catching up with the progress of the first echelon. Because of this, the only person still living in the dormitory was Qin Chuan himself. After Qin Chuan returned to the dormitory, he went straight to the cultivation room. He somewhat impatiently inserted the chip Ningya gave him into his photon computer and began to look through the runes and Level 3 battle formations. In the Star Dragon Federation, Level 1 and Level 2 formation masters could be found everywhere. However, Level 3 formation masters were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. This was because the difficulty of becoming a Level 3 formation master was more than 100 times higher than becoming a Level 2 formation master. First, there was the problem of the difficulty of the formation. Although Level 2 formations were profound and mysterious, it was still within the range that ordinary people could understand and accept. On the other hand, Level 3 formations were obscure and profound. Even an experienced Level 2 formation master might not be able to comprehend it in a short period of time. Even Ningya, who had extraordinary talent, only became a level 3 formation master after her cultivation had advanced to the golden core stage. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to become a level 3 formation master. Secondly, there was the difficulty of obtaining level 3 formations. Level 1 and level 2 formations could still be bought with money. However, level 3 formations were a rare item that was difficult to buy even with money. Generally speaking, level 3 formations were passed down within the major clans and sections. They were rarely circulated in the outside world. This also caused some people to have the potential to become a level 3 formation master, but they might not have the opportunity to learn level 3 formations. It could be said that this was one of the major reasons why level 3 formation masters were extremely rare. For example, when Qin Chuan was in the state of Qing, he accidentally saw a level 4 formation. This was an extremely rare occurrence. After all, not everyone was as crazy as Chu Hua, who would casually post level 4 formations on the streets and alleys. Of course, Chu Hua had the courage to do so at that time because he had the backing of a huge force like the Black City. He had a certain amount of confidence. In addition, there were very few people who had the eyesight to understand the spirit-receiving and spirit-injecting formations. Even if there were people who could recognize them, it would be useless without the inscription method. In the past, when he was in contact with Chu Hua, Qin Chuan did not realize the preciousness of the spirit-receiving and spirit-injecting formations. Now that his horizons were broadened, Qin Chuan finally realized how bold and courageous Chu Hua was to actually teach him the inscription method of these two precious formations. In short, even with Qin Chuan's talent and Ning Ya's full support, it was extremely difficult for Qin Chuan to become a level 3 formation master before advancing to the golden core stage. This time, Ning Ya directly gave Qin Chuan a level 3 formation. Her purpose was to see how high Qin Chuan's talent was. Chapter 218. Grade 3 Battle Formation, 10-Directional Thunder Prison. Qin Chuan looked at the diagram of the Grade 3 battle formation displayed on the photon computer. He felt as if he was reading a heavenly book. His eyes were about to blur, but he couldn't understand anything. He shook his head and focused his gaze on the 10-directional thunder prison diagram again. After a while, he had no choice but to give up. For the current him, it was still a little too difficult to understand a Grade 3 battle formation. It seems that if I want to understand this 10-directional thunder prison, I have to first learn these runes. Qin Chuan looked at the 40 mystic runes and 8 earth runes on the list, and felt a little unwell. Even the most difficult combination of the 5 elements circle charm array that he had ever learned was only made up of 36 runes, and most of them were simplified black level runes. The difficulty was between the yellow level high grade and the black level middle grade. Among the 48 runes that were used to construct the all-directional thunder prison array, the simplest was at the black level high grade, and the hardest was even at the earth level middle grade. Whether it was in terms of the number of runes or the difficulty, the all-directional thunder prison was far more difficult than the combination of the 5 elements circle charm array. It was impossible for Qin Chuan to learn the all-directional thunder prison array in a short time. However, Qin Chuan wasn't discouraged. Everything was difficult at the beginning. He would start from the most basic runes. Sooner or later, he would be able to learn the 10-directional thunder prison. The 6 Great Academies ranking tournament was a grand event that happened once every 3 years. Every time, it would cause a huge commotion. Right now, there was still more than a month's time before the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament would officially begin. All the universities in the Star Dragon Federation were already bustling with noise and excitement. As one of the 6 great academies that received a lot of attention, every year's official representative list received a lot of attention from the outside world. Being able to become an official representative with the identity of a freshman was a symbol of status. There was even a specialized research organization that made a Star Dragon ranking for this. Every person that could be on the Star Dragon ranking was absolutely a super genius with a brilliant reputation. There were a total of 10 spots on the Star Dragon list. The 6 great academies occupied 8 of them, while the 10 great academies occupied the remaining 2. Among them, Qin Haoshuan, who was known as the Qilin of the Qin family, was ranked first. Qin Haoshuan was the grandson of the Qin family's ancestor, Qin Chongshao. He studied in Star Dragon First Academy. He was only 19 years old, but he had already reached Foundation Establishment Realm Midgrade. His talent was outstanding and had received Qin Chongshao's teachings. He was a strong contender for the best contestant of the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament. Ranked second was Su Kuang, the little sword celestial from the deity Sword Villa. Although Su Kuang was only at Foundation Establishment Realm Midgrade, it was said that he had once killed 3 Foundation Establishment Realm Late-Grade evil cultivators in a battle. His swordsmanship was superb, and he was known as the #1 swordsman of the younger generation. The person ranked third was Shimin Bei from the Federal Military University. Shimin Bei, who came from one of the 4 great families, didn't choose to enter the first academy of Star Dragon Academy. Instead, he relied on his own strength to enter the Federal Military University. A month after entering the university, he directly went to the southern front line to fight against the demon race. Within a year, he killed more than 1,000 demon soldiers and nearly 100 demon generals. He could be said to be brave and good at fighting. Although he had just entered the middle stage of Foundation establishment, no one would look down on Shimin Bei's true fighting strength. Although Shimin Bei was not ranked third, there was no objection to Shimin Bei's ranking. As for the person ranked fourth, he was criticized because he was not a student of the 6 great academies. Instead, he was a sophomore from Huadong University, one of the 10 great academies, Gao Shuoyang. Gao Shuoyang's performance during his freshman year was ordinary, and there was nothing outstanding about him. However, when he entered his sophomore year, Gao Shuoyang seemed to have suddenly awakened. Not only did his cultivation soar, but he also survived 3 attacks from a gold core evil cultivator. Because of this, he became famous. At the same time, he was also the only person on the list who had reached Foundation Establishment Realm Late Grade. The person ranked 5th was Chun Aochu from the Black Sky Sect's affiliated university. His father was Chun Balian, the current sect master of the Black Sky Sect. Just like his name, he was arrogant and unruly. Although he was only at Foundation Establishment Realm Midgrade, his fighting strength was not inferior to a Foundation Establishment Realm Late-Grade cultivator. He was worthy of the title of Black Sky Sect's Young Sect Master. The person ranked 6th was also from Star Dragon First Academy. She was Yi Qingning, the daughter of the Yi family, one of the 4 great families. She was at Foundation Establishment Realm Midgrade. As the daughter of the Yi family, Yi Qingning was not famous for her amazing cultivation talent and fighting strength, but for her beauty. Not only was Yi Qingning the undisputed beauty of Star Dragon First Academy, she was also called the Goddess of Star Dragon by many families, implying that this woman should only exist in heaven. Because of these rumors, countless handsome young men went to the first academy of Star Dragon Academy just to see the beauty of the goddess. And those who saw Yi Qingning's real face all praised her as a goddess who had descended to earth. The person ranked 7th was the only commoner on the list. She was the new student council president of Star Dragon Academy, Zhou Lin. Speaking of Zhou Lin, she was also a legendary figure. When she first entered Foundation Establishment Realm, she visited Star Dragon First Academy and defeated 3 Foundation Establishment Realm mid-grade cultivators in a row. She returned victorious and earned herself the title of Queen of Blades. After she entered Foundation Establishment Realm mid-grade, She visited the Black Sky Sex-affiliated university and was able to defeat Foundation Establishment Realm late-grade cultivators without losing. She became famous and was ranked 7th on the list. The person ranked 8th was Long Xiao from Black Moon Combat Academy. She was the only Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator on the list, but because the Long family was publicly recognized as the #1 Talisman Master family, it was normal for Long Xiao's cultivation to be weaker. No one was surprised. As a rare rank 2 battle formation master, Long Xiao's fighting strength was not underestimated. The person ranked 9th was also from Star Dragon First Academy. She was the daughter of the Qian family, one of the 4 great families, Qian Duo Bao. As the first wife's daughter of the richest family in the Star Dragon Federation, Qian Duo Bao grew up with a golden spoon in her mouth. From her daily life to her cultivation, she used the best things in the world. Even if her talent was average, she was still able to cultivate to Foundation Establishment Realm mid-grade. It was no exaggeration to say that Qian Duo Bao was a walking treasure trove. Her real fighting strength was a mystery, but as the daughter of the Qian family, she shouldn't be weak. The person ranked last was Sun Mao from Lin Hai University, one of the top 10 universities. As a star student of Lin Hai University, Sun Mao walked the path of body refinement. All of his martial arts were focused on his body. It was said that his body was as strong as a low-grade magic treasure. Even if a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator used all of their strength, it would be difficult to leave a visible scar on his body. It was very terrifying. After the Star Dragon list was announced, people who had seen the list couldn't wait to see the battles between the super geniuses on the list. Star Dragon City, where the 6 great academies ranking competition was held, was unprecedentedly lively. Chapter 219. When the Star Dragon list was released, the various academies also announced the names of their students who would be participating in the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament. There were 9 people in total, including the official list and the freshman list. When the Black Moon Combat Academy's list of participants was posted on the school's intranet, it caused a huge stir within the school. One reason was because 3 of the names on the official list were freshmen, and the other reason was because the name of Qinchuan, who had once been known as the #1 freshman, had only appeared on the freshman list and not the official list. Many people were shocked when they saw the 2 lists. Although they had not interacted much with the people on the lists for nearly a year, Qinchuan had left a deep impression on everyone when he had first entered the school. Even after news of the official students advancing to the Foundation Establishment stage had spread, many people still believed that Qinchuan was still the #1 freshman. However, from the school's list and the Star Dragon list's rankings, the current #1 freshman was clearly Long Xiao. Long Xiao, who had once been defeated by Qinchuan in one move, had now surpassed Qinchuan and become the face of the Black Moon Combat Academy. This was something that many people had not expected. Now that the facts were in front of them, everyone could not help but sigh. Long Xiao was truly worthy of being the Long family's first daughter. Back then, Qinchuan was so strong. I thought that he would continue to be so strong until the end. I never thought that he would fall in less than a year. After all, Long Xiao is the Long family's first daughter. She is not someone a commoner like Qinchuan can compare to. However, Qinchuan was able to advance to the Foundation Establishment stage, so it's not bad for him to be a freshman representative. What you said makes sense. Qinchuan was able to suppress Long Xiao back then, which is enough for him to be proud of for the rest of his life. Hu Dingshan and Su Enjing walked on the road and listened to the discussions about Qinchuan. Their feelings were somewhat complicated. They never thought that Qinchuan, who had suppressed everyone back then, would fall out of the first echelon after a year and become one of the second echelon. Although his performance isn't that great, at least he's much better than us, Su Enjing pursed her lips and said. He's still the Qinchuan in my heart, an indomitable spirit. Hu Dingshan looked at Su Enjing with a complicated expression. He didn't say anything because Su Enjing was right. Even though Qinchuan's performance was not good, he was still not someone they could compare to. At the very least, Qinchuan was now a foundation establishment stage cultivator, and Hu Dingshan was still struggling at the 11th level of the qi refining stage. If you are worried about him, we can go and see him. Hu Dingshan hesitated for a long time before he finally said those words. There's no need. Su Enjing gently shook her head and said, We are not from the same world as him. Rather than forcing our way in, it's better to observe from afar. Occasionally we can meet him and have a casual chat. I'm already very happy. The discussion about Qinchuan didn't only take place in the Black Moon Combat Academy. Many people in other places were also paying attention to Qinchuan. At the eastern mountain front line, a well-built young man sat on the ground and looked at the Star Dragon list displayed on his photon computer. He muttered, What kind of lousy list is this? His name isn't even on it. How unreliable. As he spoke, the young man opened the list of participants from the various academies. When he saw Qinchuan's name on the list of freshman representatives from the Black Moon Combat Academy, he couldn't help but roll his eyes. He was somewhat speechless and said, You're too disappointing. You've been in the Black Moon Combat Academy for almost a year and you're only a freshman representative. Wang Bo, what are you mumbling about? A bald man walked in front of the young man and smiled as he looked at the contents of the photon computer. He said, Oh, you're also interested in the 6 Great Academies ranking competition? This young man named Wang Bo was none other than Qinchuan's best friend, Wang Bo, who had grown up with him. After a year of military service, the fat Wang Bo had completely transformed into a well-built warrior. However, when he smiled, he still looked a little silly and harmless to humans and animals. Boss, this is my brother. He's the one who caused the uproar in the Hidden Dragon Arena. Wang Bo proudly introduced Qinchuan to his superior. His expression was as proud as if Qinchuan had already obtained the title of the best contestant in the 6 Great Academies ranking competition. Not bad, not bad. The big man patted Wang Bo's shoulder and said, Next month, it's our 3rd Battalion's turn to take a break. Do you want to go and take a look? Wang Bo's eyes lit up when he heard this. He asked in surprise, Really? Of course. The big man laughed and said, But you'll have to help me heal those injured soldiers first. No problem, leave it to me. Star Dragon Academy's first academy, first-year female dormitory. Wang Wenxue sat cross-legged on her bed. Her beautiful black hair casually draped over her shoulders. She was quiet and beautiful. She looked at the Black Moon Combat Academy's list of freshman representatives with complicated feelings. Now that you're an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator, you've also become a freshman representative. This is really unexpected. Ever since the special training camp ended, Wang Wenxue had never seen Qinchuan again. She also hadn't heard any news about Qinchuan. She originally thought that she wouldn't have any more interactions with Qinchuan in her life, but she didn't expect to see this name again when she looked up the other 5 academies' freshman representatives. All the memories of this person surged forth like a tide, endless and unending. Little Shui, what are you looking at? Why are you so engrossed? A melodious and pleasant voice rang out by Wang Wenxue's ear. Soon after, a girl in a yellow dress appeared beside Wang Wenxue. Her hair casually draped behind her back, as smooth and natural as a brocade. She wore a veil on her face, obscuring her appearance like mist. However, her eyes that were exposed were exceptionally bright, as resplendent and beautiful as the stars. Wang Wenxue pursed her lips in response to the young girl's question and said, Do you still remember the person I mentioned to you before? He's also the freshman representative of the 6 Great Academies. Him? The young girl seemed surprised and couldn't help but look at Wang Wenshue's photon computer. At this moment, the photon computer was displaying information about Qinchuan. Black Moon Combat Academy's freshman representative, early stage foundation establishment cultivator. You're also a freshman representative, and he's also a freshman representative. Doesn't this mean that the two of you might meet in the arena? Yes. Wang Wenshue lightly nodded. She was also an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator and had also been selected as a freshman representative. She would represent the first Academy of Star Dragon in the 6 Great Academies ranking competition. Then when the time comes, you have to beat him up ruthlessly. Beat that bastard to death. Wang Wenshue bitterly laughed and shook her head. He's not a bastard. If they were talking about bastards, perhaps she was the bastard. Chapter 220. Cosmic Sky Academy. As the new president of the Cosmic Sky Academy's Student Council, Zhou Lin did not put her energy into managing the Student Council. Instead, she devoted herself to cultivation. In the cultivation room, Zhou Lin had just finished her daily gravity training and was relaxing her body when a tall figure suddenly appeared behind her. The figure hugged her slender waist and teased, "Lin, your waist is becoming more and more enchanting. I wonder which brat will take advantage of it in the future." "Duan Yusin, do you believe that I won't kill you with a single palm?" Faced with Zhou Lin's threat, Duan Yusin consciously let go of Zhou Lin's waist and giggled. "I'm just envious. Why are you so angry?" "I'm not targeting you. I'm just in a bad mood." Zhou Lin gently shook her head and sat down on the ground. From her expression, it was clear that she was not in a good mood. Duan Yusin raised her eyebrows and asked, Which blind fool provoked you? Beat him up so badly that even his mother won't recognize him." Seeing that Zhou Lin was still silent, Duan Yusin seemed to have thought of something and carefully asked, "Could it be that something happened to the junior that you've been paying attention to?" Zhou Lin pursed her lips and replied, "He's the freshman representative of the Black Moon Combat Academy and will be participating in the 6 Great Academies selection as a freshman." Hearing Zhou Lin's reply, Duan Yusin understood that it was indeed related to that brat. However, wasn't it a good thing to be able to participate in the 6 Great Academies selection as a freshman representative? You haven't seen each other for so long. If he can participate in the selection as a freshman representative, then you can take advantage of this opportunity to meet him. Isn't that a good thing? You don't understand. I'm the one who harmed him. Zhou Lin's expression was gloomy and her tone was very downcast. Duan Yusin was surprised by Zhou Lin's reaction. This was the first time she had seen Zhou Lin reveal such an expression. What kind of magic did this junior have to be able to affect Zhou Lin's mood? "Tell me about it." Duan Yusin reached out and held Zhou Lin's hand. As Zhou Lin's best friend, she felt that she needed to be a suitable tree hole and quietly listened to Zhou Lin pour out her thoughts. "Do you still remember that I advanced to the foundation establishment stage after returning to school a year ago?" Zhou Lin looked at Duan Yusin with a complicated expression and said in a low voice, "Weren't you always curious about where I got my foundation building elixir? Now let me tell you, my foundation building liquid was given to me by him." Duan Yusin looked at Zhou Lin in surprise. She thought that Zhou Lin's foundation establishment liquid was bought by her father, Zhou Meng, at a high price. She didn't expect that it was given to Zhou Lin by Qinchuan. "At that time, I swore that I would definitely give him a foundation establishment fluid of the same quality when he needed it, but I broke my promise." At this point, Zhou Lin lowered her head. Now that Qinchuan was already in the foundation establishment stage, this meant that Qinchuan had obtained a foundation establishment fluid from other sources. Moreover, she also found out that Qinchuan had only just entered the foundation establishment stage. According to her understanding of Qinchuan, with Qinchuan's talent, He could have advanced to the foundation establishment stage a long time ago. The reason why it was delayed until now was most likely because he didn't have a foundation establishment fluid. In other words, she was the one who delayed Qinchuan. If she didn't use Qinchuan's foundation establishment fluid, perhaps Qinchuan would already be in the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage, or even higher. How could Zhou Lin not blame herself and not feel sad? After knowing some of the details of the matter, Duan Yusin didn't know what to say. No wonder Zhou Lin had been working hard for more than a year to earn academic credits, but she didn't use any of them. It turned out that she wanted to exchange them for a bottle of foundation establishment fluid for Qinchuan. However, Zhou Lin didn't have enough academic credits, and Qinchuan had already advanced to the foundation establishment stage. It was normal for Zhou Lin to blame herself and feel sad. Lin, why don't we look at the problem from another angle? Duan Yusin thought for a moment and said to Zhou Lin, although Qinchuan doesn't need the foundation establishment elixir now, he will definitely need the core condensation elixir in the future. When that time comes, you can return him a portion of the core condensation elixir. Hearing Duan Yusin's words, Zhou Lin couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment. Soon after, her face couldn't help but reveal a touch of joy. Really? Of course, in terms of value, core condensation fluid is definitely more precious than foundation establishment fluid. When the time comes, if you can give a bottle of core condensation fluid to Qinchuan, then you can consider the grace of a drop of water repaid with a gushing spring. Qinchuan absolutely won't suffer a loss. Thank you. Zhou Lin looked at Duan Yusin with gratitude. If Duan Yusin didn't remind her, she wouldn't have thought of such a good idea. With her current ability, it was basically impossible to obtain a bottle of core condensation fluid, but she could work hard. At least she was now walking in front of Qinchuan. She could definitely deliver the core condensation fluid to Qinchuan before Qinchuan needed it. Looking at Zhou Lin's happy appearance, Duan Yusin felt somewhat helpless in her heart. For commoners like them, foundation establishment fluid was already something that couldn't be bought with money, not to mention core condensation fluid. She was really worried that Zhou Lin would do something crazy for a bottle of core condensation fluid in the future. But things in the future would have to wait until the future. Lin, can you honestly answer a question of mine? Duan Yusin saw the change in Zhou Lin's mood and couldn't help but want to ask a question. Zhou Lin slightly smiled and said, "What question do you have? Ask away, I will definitely answer to everything I know." Duan Yusin looked deeply at Zhou Lin and asked, "What you feel for that little junior brother of yours, is it friendship, kindness, or love?" She and Zhou Lin grew up together and entered Starry Sky Academy together. In the past 20 years, the number of boys who pursued Zhou Lin was at least 800, if not 1,000. Among them, there were children of aristocratic families, descendants of sects, and also commoner geniuses. However, no matter what status they had, none of them were able to arouse Zhou Lin's interest. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Qinchuan was definitely the boy that Zhou Lin cared about the most. If one were to say that this was just a simple friendship between a senior sister and a junior brother, she would never believe it. Facing Duan Yusin's question, Zhou Lin was silent for a moment. Then she gently smiled and said, "I thought you wanted to ask me something. There's nothing to say about this matter. At least for now, the two of us only have a relationship of senior sister and junior brother." Zhou Lin didn't directly answer this question, but Duan Yusin already understood. In other words, if Qinchuan was willing to take the initiative to take a step forward, then the relationship between Zhou Lin and Qinchuan would definitely not be a pure relationship of senior sister and junior brother. Chapter 221. What? I'm unparalleled in the world. Why am I ranked 8th? I'm only one place higher than that silly woman from the Qian family? Long Xiao complained to Bai Yu, who was walking beside her, about the unfairness of the Star Dragon list. According to her, she should be ranked first. This Star Dragon list is just a gimmick. It doesn't have much practical reference value. Why take it seriously? Lu Zi smiled and said to Long Xiao, if we really want to rank according to strength, I think Gao Shuoyang from Huadong University should be ranked first. Gao Shuoyang was the only cultivator in the late Foundation establishment stage on the Star Dragon list. Without fighting, Gao Shuoyang was definitely the strongest on paper. It was reasonable for Gao Shuoyang to be ranked first on the Star Dragon list. However, because Gao Shuoyang only came from an ordinary family, and the university he studied at was only a famous university, far inferior to the 6 great academies, it was already his limit to be ranked fourth on the Star Dragon list. What you said makes a bit of sense. Long Xiao nodded in agreement and then said, how strong do you think Qin Chuan is now? Although on the surface, Qin Chuan just entered the Foundation establishment stage and shouldn't be strong, they all had a certain understanding of Qin Chuan. They knew that evaluating Qin Chuan's strength absolutely couldn't be based on the realm alone. If they really underestimated Qin Chuan because of Qin Chuan's low realm, they would definitely suffer a big loss. Qin Chuan has a chance to become an official representative. At this moment, Bai Yu suddenly spoke and mentioned the official representative again. Yu, don't tell me you still want to give the spot to Qin Chuan. Long Xiao spread her hands and said, there's no chance. The rules don't allow it. If someone among the official representatives is unable to participate in the competition, then the new representative can go on stage as a substitute. This is the supplementary rule of the 6 Great Academies ranking competition newly announced by the Education Department. Bai Yu showed the optical computer in front of Lu Zi and Long Xiao, indicating that they should look at the rules of the 6 Great Academies ranking competition that the Department of Education had just announced. There really is such a substitute rule. Long Xiao was a little surprised. Does this count as the Education Department taking the initiative to open a back door for Qin Chuan? If that's the case, as long as one of the official representatives is unable to participate in the competition, Qin Chuan can be a substitute. Lu Zi was also a little happy. She couldn't help but ask Bai Yu, say, should we invite Senior Lan and Senior Han out for a meal? Eating was just a pretense. The real thing was to cripple one of them. Stop fooling around. At this moment, a helpless voice rang out beside the 3 of them. They raised their heads to look in the direction of the voice and saw Qin Chuan looking at them, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. The 3 of you are a little too bold. You actually want to use this method to eliminate Senior Lan and Senior Han. Isn't that too much? Qin Chuan grinned and said, you don't have to think so much for me. Let's just leave everything to fate. The new representative isn't bad either. It's easy and carefree. You're quite open-minded. Long Xiao rolled her eyes at Qin Chuan. Since Qin Chuan wasn't interested in being the official representative, they didn't need to waste their efforts. You can do it. Bai Yu looked at Qin Chuan seriously and said, with your strength, you can definitely become the official representative. Bai Yu firmly believed that with Qin Chuan's strength, if he wasn't late, he would definitely be able to defeat Lan Shuxin or Han Ting and become the official representative. You think too highly of me. Qin Chuan chuckled and reached out to rub Bai Yu's head. He said, all right, let's not talk about this anymore. We should go and gather everyone. There was less than a month until the official start of the 6 Great Academies ranking competition. They needed to head to Star Dragon City in advance to adapt to the environment. The gathering point was set at the school's teleportation plaza. At that time, there would be many people coming to send them off. When Qin Chuan's group of 4 arrived at the teleportation plaza, there was already a sea of people there. When they saw Qin Chuan's group of 4 appear, the crowd immediately burst into loud cheers. Look, the 3 official first-year representatives are here. Amazing, all 3 of them are girls. Why is there such a strange thing mixed in with the three of them? Isn't he the new representative? I'm so envious of Qin Zhe. He can actually travel with my three goddesses. Black lines appeared on Qinchuan's face as he looked at the infatuated boy. He was a little speechless as he said, "My name is Qinchuan, not Qin Zhe." Looking at Qinchuan's unhappy expression, Lu Zi couldn't help but laugh. She teased Qinchuan. Our former #1 freshman has now become an ordinary passerby. This change is a little too big. Can you still adapt? Qinchuan rolled his eyes and said, "Thanks to you, I'm adapting very well." Qinchuan, Long Shao, Baiyu, Lu Zi, we're over here. In the center of the teleportation plaza, Chen Chongqing saw Qinchuan's group of 4 arrive. He waved at them and said loudly, "Hurry up, we're leaving." Got it. Qinchuan looked at Chen Chongqing with a curious gaze. Why does this guy look so excited? When they got closer, Qinchuan was surprised to see that Chen Chongqing was standing together with Lan Shuxin. Qinchuan couldn't help but look towards Bluepool, who was standing at the side. Seeing the helpless expression on Bluepool's face, he couldn't help but lean over and ask quietly, "What's up with these two?" Bluepool sighed and said to Qinchuan, "This guy wants to be my brother-in-law. From the looks of it, he's already halfway there." Upon hearing this, Qinchuan looked at Bluepool in astonishment. He then looked towards Lan Shuxin and Chen Chongqing, who were chatting happily, with a look of disbelief. "Speaking of which, the two of them still have to thank you." Bluepool looked at Qinchuan with a faint gaze and said, "If it wasn't to help you stall for time, the two of them wouldn't have taken pulses in a friendly manner for 2 hours during the battle. They also wouldn't have such passionate feelings for each other now." Upon hearing this, Qinchuan grinned and suddenly shouted at Chen Chongqing, "Chongqing, I saw your ex-girlfriend when I went to the City of Elves 2 days ago. I heard from her that the two of you have plans to get back together. Is that true?" As Qinchuan's words fell, the smile on Chen Chongqing's face instantly stiffened. Ex-girlfriend? Why didn't he remember having an ex-girlfriend in the City of Elves? Seeing Lan Shuxin's expression turn cold in an instant, Chen Chongqing instantly realized that he had been pranked by Qinchuan. "Senior, listen to me. I don't have any ex-girlfriends in the City of Elves. Boss is lying. There's no need to explain. Chongqing, you're a good person." Chen Chongqing. Looking at the aggrieved Chen Chongqing, Qinchuan instantly felt much better. Chapter 222. Everyone be quiet. With the arrival of Vice Principal Li Defu, the bustling teleportation plaza gradually quieted down. The slightly plump Li Defu stood in front of the representatives, looked around and said in a clear voice, "Today is the day that the 2 representatives of the Black Moon Combat Academy will set off for the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament. Here, on behalf of the Academy's higher-ups, I wish the 2 representatives good results in the tournament. Students, please always remember the motto of the Black Moon Combat Academy. Fight! Everyone in the Black Moon Combat Academy is a warrior. We work hard to cultivate and study array glyphs, all for the sake of fighting, for the sake of victory. Students, please do not disappoint the Academy's teachings and expectations. Please do your best to fight." Although Li Defu's speech was not hot-blooded or impassioned, it successfully stirred up everyone's emotions and made them deeply understand the meaning of the Academy's motto, "Fight. Fight with the heavens, fight with the earth, and fight with endless joy." They were born warriors, and they should fight and fight to win every battle. After a simple farewell, Qinchuan and the others stepped onto the teleportation array to the City of Elves. On this trip, in addition to the representatives of the 2 teams, there were also tutors Su Yuluo, Lan Weiwei, and the president of the student union, Zhu Feng. Everyone would board the Black Moon #3 flying ship from the Elf City to Star Dragon City. With the flying speed of the Black Moon #3, they would only need 3 days to reach Star Dragon City. At that time, they would stay at the Academy's office in Star Dragon City and wait for the 6 Great Academies ranking tournament to begin. Just as Qinchuan's group stepped onto the flying ship and prepared to leave for Star Dragon City, the other academies also began to move. Some were there to participate, while others were there to spectate. On the flying ship, Qinchuan had just sat down when he opened his photon computer to check his mailbox. Qinchuan was helpless about the fact that he could not receive emails from outside the academy. Every time he left the academy, his mailbox would be filled with emails. This time, there were a total of 6 emails in his mailbox from different people. Qinchuan first opened the email from his good brother, Wang Bo. There was a photo attached to the email. In the photo, Wang Bo was sitting in a trench. His face was dirty, but his smile was exceptionally bright. "Brother, I've slimmed down. What do you think? Am I handsome?" Looking at this sentence, Qinchuan couldn't help but grin. He had indeed lost weight, but it was hard to tell whether he was handsome or not with his dark face. Ever since Qinchuan met Wang Bo had always been a fatty. From a little fatty to a big fatty, Wang Bo had never lost any weight. At this moment, Qinchuan really couldn't imagine what Wang Bo would look like after he lost weight. The letter briefly described Wang Bo's daily life on the Eastern Mountain battlefront. What surprised Qinchuan was that Wang Bo had actually transformed from a soldier at the front of the army to a medic in the logistics department. Qinchuan didn't know what to say about his good brother's fate. Wang Bo had clearly said that he would become a general after achieving great military merit. Now that he had become a medic, could he still become a general? In his reply to Wang Bo, Qinchuan simply wrote down what had happened to him. He also reminded Wang Bo to watch Star Dragon TV if he had the chance. When the time came, Star Dragon TV would broadcast the 6 Great Academies qualifiers live. He definitely couldn't miss his exciting performance. After replying to Wang Bo, Qinchuan opened Zhou Lin's email. Compared to Wang Bo's, Zhou Lin's email was much simpler. "I will arrive at Star Dragon City on the 1st of May. If you arrive, remember to contact me." Seeing Zhou Lin's email, Qinchuan couldn't help but smile. He hadn't seen Zhou Lin for almost a year, so he didn't know what changes had happened to her. "I've already set off. I'll arrive on the 2nd day. I look forward to meeting you." After replying to Zhou Lin, Qinchuan looked at the remaining emails. Aside from the spam, there was one email from Yu Kai, whom he hadn't contacted for a long time. "Qinchuan, I heard that you will be participating in the 6 Great Academies qualifiers as the Black Moon Combat Academy's freshman representative. Let me tell you, I'm also the freshman representative of Star Dragon's first academy. When you arrive at Star Dragon City, we can meet." Seeing Yu Kai-er's email, Qinchuan's expression couldn't help but become a little strange. Was such a delicate girl like Yu Kai really suitable to participate in this kind of intense competition? "I'm also looking forward to meeting you." After replying to Yu Kai, Qinchuan turned off his photon computer. He glanced at Lu Zi, who was sitting to the side and was somewhat speechless. "What are you doing?" "Nothing, I'm just peeking at you chatting with a little girl." Lu Zi curled her lips and said, "I want to see what your fiancé looks like when I go to Star Dragon City." "Fiancé?" Hearing Lu Zi's words, the surrounding people instantly looked at Qinchuan. This guy actually had a fiancé? Don't mess around. Qinchuan helplessly looked at Lu Zi. "Kair and I are just friends." "Scumbag." Long Xiao rolled her eyes at Qinchuan. She now felt that Qinchuan was a scumbag. Not only did he have Lu Zi and Bai Yu, but he also had senior sister Zhou in the Starry Sky Academy. Now, he even had a fiancé. A boy who was not even 20 years old actually had an ambiguous relationship with 4 girls at the same time. If this wasn't a scumbag, then what was? Qinchuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He obviously didn't do anything, so how did he become a scumbag? Boss, you just wronged me, causing me to bear the title of a scumbag. I really didn't expect you to be the real scumbag. Chen Chongqing looked at Qin Chuan with contempt. He felt that Qin Chuan was really too shameless. He actually had an ambiguous relationship with so many girls at the same time. Okay, everyone quiet down. Now, I will tell everyone about our strategic deployment. Lan Weiwei walked to the side of everyone at this time. She opened the crystal screen on the airship and connected it to her optical computer. She said to everyone, "The 6 Great Academies ranking competition will be held in the order of freshman competition, official competition, and challenge competition. The freshman competition will be held on the 20th. We still have about half a month to prepare. Zhao Feihong, do you have the confidence to advance to the foundation establishment stage in the next half a month?" Zhao Feihong was a tall, thin, and quite handsome boy. He was the only one among the freshman representatives who had reached the peak of the 13th level of the refinement stage. It was reasonable to say that as long as he had the foundation establishment liquid, he could advance to the foundation establishment stage. However, because of some psychological pressure, he couldn't take this step. "Teacher, I can definitely do it." Zhao Feihong clenched his fist. He didn't want to be a burden to the team. Chapter 223. According to the rules of the competition, the freshman competition will be divided into groups by drawing lot. The winners will enter the winners group, and the losers will enter the losers group. The losers group will have a revival match. One team will have a bye, and the other 2 teams will compete. The winner and the bye team will compete in the next round, and the final winner will advance to the winners group. The winners group will draw lots, and the semifinals will still be held in pairs. The winner will enter the finals, and the loser will compete for 3rd place. The final winning team can win 20 points for their school. The 6 Great Academies ranking competition is ranked according to the number of points. In the freshman competition, the champion will have 20 points, the runner-up will have 10 points, the 3rd place will have 5 points, and the rest of the teams will have no points. In the official competition, the champion will have 50 points, the runner-up will have 30 points, the 3rd place will have 20 points, the runner-up will have 10 points, and the remaining 2 teams will have no points. After the official competition, it will be the challenge competition. The 10 Great Academies will have an internal duel. The champion and runner-up team that wins the final victory will be qualified to challenge the 6 Great Academies. In the freshman competition and the official competition, the teams that have no points have no right to refuse the challenge of the champion and runner-up of the 10 Great Academies, and the teams with points have the right to refuse. Once the champion and runner-up of the 10 Great Academies defeats one of the 6 Great Academies, they will replace the other and become one of the 6 Great Academies. Since the 6 Great Academies ranking competition began, it has been more than 400 years. The status of the 6 Great Academies has never been shaken, but today is different from the past. The strength of the 10 Great Academies has become stronger and stronger, gradually narrowing the gap between us and the 6 Great Academies. If we relax a little, we may be hit hard and lose our status as one of the 6 Great Academies. I think that everyone here doesn't want to become a sinner of the school. Lan Weiwei looked at everyone with a serious gaze. Her tone was extremely serious, without the slightest hint of joking. "Teacher, we won't mess around." Chen Chongqing responded positively to Lan Weiwei and said loudly, "We will go all out and defeat all our opponents." Lan Weiwei helplessly glanced at Chen Chongqing and then glanced at Lan Shuxin. Since Chen Chongqing began to pursue Lan Shuxin, he simply loved her and her crows. He was particularly concerned about everyone in the Lan family. Everyone else was listening quietly, but he was the only one who responded loudly. She really didn't know whether to be happy or distressed. After being glared at by Lan Shuxin, Chen Chongxing quieted down. Seeing this, Lan Weiwei continued, "Ever since the list of participants from the other 5 great academies was announced some time ago, I have been studying our opponents in the newcomer competition. So far, there are a total of 24 participants from the 6 great academies. Only Zhao Feihong is at the peak of the 13th level of the refinement stage. The rest have already advanced to the foundation establishment stage. So for us, it is theoretically difficult to get a good ranking in the newcomer competition." Being called out again, Zhao Feihong's face couldn't help but become a little ashamed. He was the one who dragged everyone down. "You can't blame Zhao Feihong." Qin Chuan chuckled and said, "After all, we freshmen are too fierce. We defeated 3 second-year seniors in a row. If it weren't for this, Zhao Feihong wouldn't have been forced to do something beyond his ability. So, if you want to blame someone, you can only blame the seniors for not putting in enough effort." Hearing Qin Chuan's words, everyone laughed. Indeed, Zhao Feihong didn't intend to participate in the competition. It was those seniors who didn't put in enough effort and easily defeated them. Otherwise, Zhao Feihong would be cultivating in school right now. Facing everyone's friendly laughter, the pressure in Zhao Feihong's heart couldn't help but lessen a lot. He looked at Qin Chuan with some gratitude. If it weren't for Qin Chuan standing up to help him out, he would have been under too much pressure. At this time, Lan Weiwei also noticed the change in Zhao Feihong's mood. She showed an apologetic expression and said to Zhao Feihong, "Feihong, I didn't mean to target you with what I said just now. If it has any negative impact on you, I apologize to you here." "Teacher, I'm fine." Zhao Feihong pursed his lips and said, "Since I've already joined the team, I will definitely do my best. I won't let teacher and students down." Lan Weiwei nodded lightly and then said to everyone, "Okay, now let's talk about the teams from the other schools. Among the 5 great academies, the strongest is naturally the First Academy of Star Dragon. The freshman representatives of the First Academy of Star Dragon are all in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm." Hearing this, everyone's expression couldn't help but change a little. They all became a little dignified. The First Academy of Star Dragon was indeed worthy of being the strongest university in the Federation. Even the freshman representatives were in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Just by looking at the realm, they were even stronger than their official representatives. It was simply outrageous. The First Academy of Star Dragon, the freshman representatives are Wang Wenxue, Qin Yang, Su Wenliang, and Yu Kai. I don't know the specific strength of these 4, but their innate rune attributes are no secret. Among them, Wang Wenxue is of the water attribute, Qin Yang is of the wood attribute, Su Wenliang is of the earth attribute, and Yu Kai is of the wind attribute. As for our side, Qin Chuan is of the thunder attribute, Blue Pool is of the water attribute, Chen Chongxing is of the metal attribute, and Zhao Feihong is of the wind attribute. In terms of attributes, Lan Weiwei's speech lasted for an entire 4 hours. She explained in detail the innate rune attributes of the freshman representatives from the other 5 great academies, as well as their strengths to Qin Chuan and the others. Of course, the information that Lan Weiwei had gathered wasn't very detailed. It could only provide a reference for everyone, but it was enough. From Lan Weiwei's explanation, everyone had a clearer understanding of the rankings of the freshman representatives from the Black Moon Combat Academy among the 6 great academies. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that the Black Moon Combat Academy was ranked 4th at most. It seems that it will be quite difficult for us to obtain points in the freshman competition. Chen Chongxing frowned slightly. If they couldn't obtain points in the freshman competition, then the pressure on the official representatives would be too great. What's there to frown about? Blue Pool glanced at Chen Chongxing and said, "Perhaps we won't be able to display much of our strength, but Qin Chuan will definitely be able to defeat all of them by himself." Hearing this, Qin Chuan glanced at Blue Pool and was somewhat speechless. Since when did you understand me so well? I didn't even know that I would be able to defeat everyone. At this moment, Lu Zi faintly glanced at Qin Chuan and said something that almost made Qin Chuan vomit blood. What, are you unwilling to defeat Yuker and Wang Wenxue? Qin Chuan looked at Lu Zi with a constipated expression. Woman, your thoughts are very dangerous. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.